All right, you and I are about to dive into a devastating story about a commander's daughter. She used to tease me as the softest kid in the military barracks, saying whoever married me would be a dog. And I would shoot back, calling her a little she-devil who only deserved a stray dog's attention. But when we turned 18, we were the only single elites left, so our parents quickly married us off. On our wedding night, while drying her hair, she softly asked if I knew anything about intimacy. To my surprise, the spark was unreal. For 3 years, that gorgeous woman clung to me, begging for mercy. We were the most passionate couple in the entire base until she left for a dangerous, distant mission. Her twin sister, Bao Shu, returned carrying a bloody military dog tag. Choking back tears, she rasped out, "Fang Yuan, Bai Ningbing is never coming back." I collapsed right there. Waking up, sheer panic drove me to search for her, but my father-in-law held me back with crushing force. Afterwards. Now, watch closely, because you're about to see how I tried to die 3 times out of sheer grief. Our bond seemed so beautiful and flawless, until 3 months passed since the day she supposedly died. That's when I uncovered the sickening truth. She was alive. After my 3rd suicide attempt, weak and pale like a ghost, I dragged myself straight to her family home that night. I wanted to ask my father-in-law for some of her belongings, hoping to soothe the crushing agony consuming my soul, but suddenly I caught muffled whispers drifting from the back room. "Ningbing, how much longer are you going to hide this? Fang Yuan has already tried to end his life 3 times because of you." My nails dug deep into my palms. Why on earth was my sister-in-law's father calling her that name? He clearly called her Ningbing. And though the voice seemed like my sister-in-law's, that sweet tone was undeniably my wife's. Before she passed away, my sister begged me to take good care of my brother-in-law. He has always lived such a sheltered life. If he finds out about her death now, he won't survive it. I have no choice but to take over her identity and bear a child for my brother-in-law. Only with that baby will he find a reason to live. Hearing this, the blood completely froze in my veins. I know what you're thinking, this is crazy, but the one who actually died was my sister-in-law, not Ningbing. My own wife was alive, playing sister while sharing a bed with another man right next door. What about me? The father's voice sounded frantic. "You are sleeping in Jinian's room every single night without fail. Haven't you thought about Fang Yuan? He is stronger than your brother-in-law." Those words pierced my heart like daggers. I stumbled backward, accidentally knocking over a broom that was leaning against the wall. The room went dead silent. I spun around and ran, feeling a sharp, burning pain in my hand. Opening my fist, I saw the military metal I clutched so tightly had sliced deep into my skin over those 3 months. I held on to that metal day and night, weeping bitterly every time I woke from my constant nightmares. But now, it all feels like a sick joke. My wife isn't dead, she just pitied her sister's husband. So she chose to fake her death. Let's head back 5 years ago to the military gala where it all began. This is the heartbreaking tale of a cold regiment commander and a love defined by absolute betrayal. But that night, she stood below the stage, gazing up at me with those bright, piercing eyes. The moment my song ended, she stepped up and draped her heavy military coat over my shoulders before everyone. She said, "Comrade Fang Yuan, it is windy, do not catch a cold." I felt the warmth of her love in that coat. From that day on, she pursued me, detouring from official missions just to visit me at the art troupe. When I finally agreed to date her, she threw herself into my arms with absolute, pure joy. She promised me, "Fang Yuan, in this lifetime, I, Bai Ningbing, will only ever love you." Once married, everyone whispered about how madly the commander adored her husband, loving him to her very core. I believed she loved me more than life itself. And now, To comfort her brother-in-law, she faked her death and stole her sister's life. She is sharing his bed and life, even getting ready to carry and give birth to his child. While I wept like a fool over her passing, dying of grief, did she even care that I was suffering? Trust me, you and I are going to find out exactly how this betrayal unravels. When I returned home, matchmaker Lou had news. Stick with me, this is the 7th time she's asked for my hand. She warned me this is my last chance. Now, Suha used to be Bai Ningbing's close companion. She asked for my hand over and over. I rejected her 6 times before, thinking I could only love Ningbing. But now, I calmly look up and agree to marry. Matchmaker Lou is completely shocked, asking if I'm actually serious. Tell Su Baihao we will wed in half a month, and I will move to the island with her. Suddenly, the curtain flies open. Bai Ningbing stands there, her face dark. Brother-in-law, who exactly do you think you are marrying? I look back at her, finding this whole scene ridiculous. Sister-in-law, this is my business alone. She addresses the matchmaker, yet she grips my wrist so tightly I can't help but wince in pain. I already look after him, he doesn't need another wife. After all, his heart belonged solely to Ningbing. How could he agree to this? Get out and never return, or I'll personally throw you out. Matchmaker Lou gasps, stating that Fang Yuan already agreed. I quickly cut her off, grabbing her arm. Auntie, didn't you need to visit the department store? You should hurry before they close up. Startled, Matchmaker Lou offers a quick apology and leaves. Seeing her leave, Ningbing sighs with relief and takes a small step closer to me. Brother-in-law, even though my sister Ningbing is no longer with us, we will protect you. If those matchmakers return, kick them out immediately. At that very moment, everything feels completely ridiculous. The truth is, she's lying to me. Now, pay attention. She spends nights in his room, terrified he'll marry someone else. What kind of twisted logic is this? I don't expose her, just nodding silently. I'm leaving in half a month anyway. I am leaving this place forever, and she will never be able to control me again. That night while packing, I hear the neighbor's bed creaking. I used to think they were just a highly passionate couple. Right at that moment, a blood-curdling scream tears through the quiet night. Running outside, I see Song Jinian carrying Ningbing, rushing desperately under the moonlight. I freeze in the crowd, feeling an icy chill. I try to turn back, but Aunt Lee grabs me, insisting I go since I'm the brother-in-law. I had to see what was wrong. Fearing local gossip, I grab a coat and head to the hospital. The sharp smell of disinfectant burns my eyes. Down the hallway, that man paces back and forth in absolute panic. He freezes upon seeing me, asking what I'm doing there. I smile faintly, replying I came as the brother-in-law. I had to check on her. But watch this, the operating room doors open, and the doctor says she's perfectly fine. What a crazy twist. She's actually pregnant. I stand frozen in the corridor, my ears ringing. The doctor's words hit me like a bucket of freezing water. I instinctively look over at Bai Ningbing's stretcher. She looks startled at first, but then her eyes light up with wild, uncontrollable joy. This is wonderful. Everything is finally returning to normal. Of course, I knew exactly what she meant. With this pregnancy, she can drop her fake identity to return to me, but I don't want her back. But the doctor cuts my thoughts short, warning that she has severe anemia and needs a blood transfusion. Jinian rolls up his sleeves immediately, but the doctor stops him because his blood type isn't compatible. They need type B blood, which happens to be mine. His eyes lock onto me before he slowly approaches. Fang Yuan, my wife is pregnant. This is the child we have longed for, he tells me after a pause. Can you donate some blood for her? When the baby is born, we will pay you back. Pay me back? I mock them internally. They owe me so much already, but I decide to just let it go. No need for that, I reply calmly. I turn around and follow the nurse straight to the lab. As the needle pierces my vein, I suddenly remember that high fever during our first year of marriage. Ningbing spent sleepless nights nursing me back to health. She held my hand tightly back then, whispering that she would stay right by my side. And now, my own blood is flowing into her body to keep another man's child alive. I rest at home over the next few days, watching their constant, public displays of affection from my window. Song Jinian carries a thermos back and forth to the hospital daily, filled with warm chicken soup. And that's where we leave it on the day of her release. The sweet scent of caramel filled the air. Come with me and see how this all starts with Bingbing handing out wedding candy to everyone. Her eyes, usually so cold, overflowed with pure joy today as she announced her pregnancy and offered sweets. Everyone congratulated her on the baby she wanted for so long, and she laughed while thanking them. Her face glowed with the joy of an expectant mother. Finally, she approached me, her hand hesitating as she offered me a piece. Brother-in-law, please congratulate your sister-in-law. I took the candy with a polite smile, wishing her family of three happiness. Bingbing's brow furrowed slightly. That congratulation was so flawless and formal that it suddenly made her feel incredibly uncomfortable. Since the day Bingbing shattered me, I cried daily, begging to leave. When had I ever been this calm? But before she could think further, Song Jinian walked over, wrapped his arm around her waist, and spoke. Honey, weren't we inviting Fang Yuan to dinner to thank him for the blood donation? Song Jinian insisted on inviting me. Pay attention here, because even though I refused 1,000 times, they practically dragged me into that car. At the restaurant, the waiter greeted us warmly, welcoming the three of us while looking at Bingbing and Jinian. You make a gorgeous couple, he said. Then he glanced at me and assumed I was just the younger brother. Bingbing froze instantly, but before she could speak, she heard my soft voice quietly confirming that he was right. Those words pierced her heart like a dagger as her eyes drifted down to her slightly rounded belly. In the end, she did not correct him. When ordering, she listed off several dishes without cilantro from memory. Low fat, low salt, all of Song Jinian's favorite spicy foods. She only remembered me when the waiter finally asked. She looked over at me, and I simply replied that anything was fine. I lowered my head and took a sip of tea, letting the rising steam hide my face. When the food arrived, I listlessly played with my rice until my throat tightened, realizing with horror the mochi had black sesame. I am severely allergic to sesame, something Bingbing used to remember perfectly to keep me safe. She even banned it in the military dining hall back then, but today she ordered a plate full of them. Song Jinian noticed something was wrong with me and asked what was going on. Bingbing looked up, saw my flushed cheeks, and stood up in a panic, asking if I ate sesame as I gasped for air. My vision blurred as Bingbing ran toward me, but Jinian's groans stopped her. Can you believe she chose him over me? Jinian had a sudden headache. Time seemed to freeze right then as I watched Bingbing stop dead in her tracks. Her gaze flickered back and forth between us, but in the end, she chose him. Before rushing out, she yelled at the waiter to take her so-called brother to the hospital. The waiter's panicked shouting slowly faded away as my consciousness completely slipped into darkness. The sharp smell of disinfectant hit me. I opened my eyes, and the nurse changing my IV asked if I was awake. Sighing with relief, she said they arrived just in time, since anaphylactic shock could have easily cost me my life. I tried to answer her, but my throat burned as if it were engulfed in flames. Bingbing had not hesitated. The memory of her turning her back on me to save Jinian haunted my mind. Tears rolled down my face. I spent 3 entire days completely alone and abandoned on that freezing hospital bed. The allergic reaction left my whole body itching, and my throat was too swollen to even swallow water. At my absolute lowest, I overheard the nurses whispering outside my door about room 308. That man only has a mild cold and headache, yet his wife is desperately doting on him. Unlike room 302, where the guy has a severe allergy and his wife never even showed up. I sank into my pillow. It was true. My wife died long ago during that mission when she chose someone else. She died the moment she chose to be another man's wife. The day they discharged me, the sun was blinding. I barely stepped out of the hospital doors before spotting a military green Jeep that I knew all too well. Moments later, Song Jinian walked out of the clinic, and the vehicle door suddenly swung wide open. Bingbing rushed over to him, holding on to him with extreme care so he would not fall. She softly told him to rest with an incredible sweetness, exactly how she used to comfort me years ago. I watched the Jeep drive off, exhaust clouding my pale face. What do you and I make of this betrayal? Come along with me to see how this cold evening starts. She did not even look at me opening my door. From afar, I spotted a slender silhouette standing outside my home. It was Ningbing, carrying all kinds of expensive gifts. At her feet lay bags filled with powdered milk, sugar, and canned goods. Fang Yuan, she called out, coming to meet me. Are you feeling better from your allergy? How ironic she ignored me all day like I was a ghost. Then you come running here alone to play the devoted lover. Thanks for your concern, sister-in-law. I am much better now. I dodged past her to unlock the door, but Bingbing grabbed my wrist. Take this to recover. No need, I said. Yuan, something terrible happened. Song Jinian burst into the yard suddenly, his face completely drenched in tears. I was reported for black marketing city return passes. In an instant, I felt Bingbing's grip turn completely cold. What did you say? Her voice turned to ice. With bloodshot eyes, Jinian cried he only wanted clothes for their unborn child. And right now, the security squad is coming to arrest me. I give you my entire allowance, yet you do this. Jinian pulled her sleeve, pleading in absolute desperation. What do we do? You are pregnant, and I cannot go to prison. Suddenly, the yard gate was kicked wide open. Comrade Song Jinian, you are accused of black marketing return passes. You must come with us immediately. Now, watch this tense moment closely. Bingbing was silent for a long time, but then she spoke unexpectedly. It was not him. All eyes locked onto Ningbing. The yard went dead silent as she emphasized every single word. I know everything. Jinian is innocent. It was Fang Yuan. In that exact moment, my entire world stopped. What are you saying? My voice shook. Repeat it. Who did this? She avoided my eyes, acting extremely nervous. It was Fang Yuan. I stood there shivering in shock, completely unable to speak a single word. Before I could speak, officers grabbed me. We have a witness statement, so you are coming with us for questioning. As they dragged me into the truck, I stared directly at Bingbing, not looking away for even a single second. She was shielding Song Jinian. Her uniform looked flawless, but she was no longer the woman from my memories. The woman who risked her life to rescue me during that earthquake. In that interrogation room, nobody believed me. The regiment commander confirmed it himself. How could a decorated military officer possibly be lying? The captain slammed a pen down, yelling at me to confess. After 3 days without food or water, they sent me to the coal mines. The mine was dark, freezing, and damp. I broke my back carrying heavy sacks of coal day and night. Every single step felt like walking on thorns. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shook the entire cavern. Cave in, run! Before I could even react, the coal crushed me, sending sharp, agonizing pain through my lower body. I heard someone screaming my name. Fang Yuan, hold on. You probably think this is a dream, and honestly, so did I. The woman who betrayed me was digging me out with her bare hands, sobbing apologies over and over again. Once she dragged me out, her voice trembled with absolute grief as she kept repeating my name helplessly. My sister died and her husband was left alone. He could never survive this. I had to blame you, Fang Yuan. I was desperate. I hurt you once, but my own heart is hurting 10 times more. When the baby is born, I will take you home. Please wake up, I beg you. I cannot live without you. I wanted to laugh. She always plays this game, slapping me first, then offering a sweet to make it better. The last thing I felt before losing consciousness was Ningbing's warm tears splashing directly onto my face. When I woke up, the hospital room was dead quiet. Bingbing was fast asleep beside my bed. I barely moved. She startled awake. Fang Yuan, she cried out, throwing her arms around me tightly, her eyes completely bloodshot. She kissed me passionately, crying she was glad I woke up. Stop it, I said, pushing her away. I used all my remaining strength to push her off me. What are you doing? She let go and backed away. She backed away as if burned, stammering apologies. Her eyes looked completely empty, and her voice was hoarse. Jinian has been sick, so they admitted him here. I must have entered the wrong room and confused you with him. She spun around and fled the room. I wiped my hand across my lips to erase any trace of her warmth. It was utterly ironic. She could tell such shameless, elaborate lies with a straight face in broad daylight. How on earth do you mistake a hospital room like that? I stayed hospitalized for a few days before being discharged. And trust me, my discharge lined up exactly with open visiting hours. Come with me as we step into the military compound, where a crowd of excited officer wives immediately surrounds us. Oh, Fang Yuan, it has been so long since Ningbing passed away. Being all alone must be hard. You need to move on. Let me introduce you to someone wonderful. She is Chief of Staff Zhang's youngest daughter, an academy graduate who is absolutely stunning. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could tell them I had already accepted Subai's marriage proposal, they shoved me right in front of a woman in uniform. Look, Comrade Chu works directly at the Scientific Research Institute. Her family already has the dowry ready, and she makes 78 yuan a month. The woman calmly adjusted her glasses. I was about to speak when a dark shadow lunged at her. A single, brutal punch sent her biting the dust. The entire crowd went dead silent in shock. I looked up, meeting a pair of completely bloodshot eyes. 3 buttons on Ningbing's uniform were torn open, her chest rising and falling with wild, unchecked rage. I appreciate your kindness, ladies, she growled through gritted teeth, her voice freezing cold. I will take care of my brother-in-law. No one else needs to worry. With that, she grabbed my arm in a tight grip and dragged me toward the exit. Now, watch closely as things get tense, because once we were away, I yanked my arm free and deliberately said her new name, Bai Rushu. Ningbing's pupils instantly contracted. After all, you and I have no relationship anymore. I coldly brushed off my wrinkled sleeve. Who I date or choose to marry is entirely my business. I turned around to walk away. A loud thud echoed behind me as Ningbing punched a tree, but I kept walking without looking back. Late that night, a strange noise woke me up. Before I could even switch on the light, a burning body pressed down on me. The heavy scent of alcohol and pine hit my nose. Ningbing's lips desperately devoured mine with absolute raw intensity. She was completely drunk, having lost all sense of reality. Her kiss was incredibly aggressive and filled with desperation. I fought to push her off, but her drunken strength was overwhelming. Please do not leave, Ningbing begged, her voice breaking. Her hot tears spilled onto my face. Do not go on blind dates with other men, I beg you. My entire body shook. I was torn between pure rage and deep humiliation. Bai Ningbing, you are Song Jinian's wife, now you are no longer mine. She pressed her forehead painfully against mine. "Just wait a little longer. It is almost time. Get out," I screamed, kneeing her. Ningbing groaned as she fell off the bed. The loud commotion instantly woke up Song Jinian in the very next room. He kicked the door open. "What is going on here?" he asked, flipping the lights. I turned away, hiding my bitten lip. "Rushu is just too drunk and stumbled into the wrong room. Brother-in-law, please take her back." Song Jinian's eyes locked onto my bleeding lip. He dug his nails in with fury, but helped Ningbing up in silence. "Rushu, let us go back to our room." Ningbing stumbled as she left, but cast one last look back at me. I locked the door and slowly slid down to the cold floor. Sitting there, the cut on my lip burned like fire. But the ache in my shattered heart was infinitely worse. The next morning, a loud car engine roared to life in the courtyard. I quietly opened my eyes, listening to Ningbing's car drive away and fade into the distance. And just when you and I thought I could finally breathe in peace, my bedroom door was violently kicked open. A vicious slap struck my cheek, leaving a burning sting. Song Jinian stood right over my bed, his eyes filled with pure malice. "Fang Yuan, you are truly a despicable man. Your wife is dead, yet you are still trying to seduce your own sister-in-law." "What kind of crazy nonsense are you talking about?" I screamed, clutching my throbbing cheek. But a second later, the sheer absurdity of last night hit me. How ridiculous, when Ningbing was legally my rightful wife. She belonged to me, yet another man was calling our intimacy a betrayal. "You have got it all wrong," I told him. Last night, she was the one who— "Shut up," Jinian roared, furiously throwing the lit candle from my nightstand onto the floor. "Do not think you can seduce another man's wife with that face. Today, you will see who she truly loves." Flames instantly devoured the curtains, spreading completely out of control. "You are absolutely insane!" I scrambled off the bed to escape, but Jinian grabbed my wrist tightly. "Where do you think you are going?" he mocked. "Do you really think I will burn here with you?" he whispered maliciously in my ear. Before coming, I summoned the militia. The thick, heavy smoke stung my eyes as tears streamed down my burning face. I struggled desperately until frantic footsteps echoed outside. As Ningbing rushed into the flames to save us, a sudden memory hit me. Suddenly, I remembered our wedding years ago. Wild, right? She held me tight and whispered, "Fang Yuan, remember that no matter what happens, you are always my priority." But trust me, the cold, hard truth was heartbreaking, because she bypassed me completely to save Sanjin first. I reached out, but a burning beam blocked my path. As the searing heat consumed me, memories of the old Bingbing flashed by. She was smiling behind the stage back then, slipping a milk candy into my hand, while softly whispering my name. Waking up to the suffocating smell of hospital disinfectant, I painfully opened my eyes to see Bingbing sitting right there. Her eyes were dark with exhaustion as she warned me, "You just had a skin graft, so do not move." She tried tending to me, but I flinched away. A skin graft? My voice cracked, shattered by the agonizing reality. Bingbing frowned, her expression freezing cold. "You started that fire and almost killed Jinian, so stop complaining about a graft. Must you behave like this?" A bitter laugh suddenly escaped my chest, turning into uncontrollable, devastating tears. "He claims I set the fire, and you blindly believe him." She rubbed her temples, looking completely drained. "I am his wife. Who else would I trust?" Those marital words felt like a dagger driving straight into my chest. Ripping the IV needle from my hand, I yelled, "Then why are you still here? Get out of my sight!" Medical equipment shattered all over the floor, but Bingbing pinned me down firmly. Now pay attention to this insult, as she tells me to just wait 10 months for their baby. I grabbed my pillow and hurled it at her with all my strength, screaming that I never wanted to see her again. But I was utterly weak. Bing Bing just stood there in absolute silence, her eyes casting a dark shadow. Eventually, she turned around and walked out. When the door shut, I noticed my favorite milk candies sitting on the nightstand. I snatched up the box and hurled it violently against the wall. Candies scattered everywhere, just like my shattered heart. On the day of my release, the blinding sunlight hit my face. As I reached the residential gates, I spotted the local matchmaker standing on her tiptoes, waving frantically to get my attention. "Fang Yuan, I finally caught you." "Aunt Lu," I replied softly, while the burn on my arm continued to throb painfully. "Everything is set with Regiment Commander Su. Your boat sails first thing tomorrow morning." Aunt Lu whispered, pulling a ticket out of her pocket, and warned me to pack as light as possible. "They have set up everything for you on that remote island." I quickly slipped a red envelope into her hand. "Thank you for going through all this trouble for me." "Oh heavens, child. Commander Su already compensated me. You need to save your funds." "No, this is a personal token of gratitude," I insisted. I smiled faintly, already picturing a toast to my fresh start. Aunt Lu stared at me in complete disbelief. Then, she beamed with joy. "You are absolutely right. This is truly worth celebrating. I know you and I are thinking the same thing here. Leaving this toxic past behind is the only choice." To me, the real Bing Bing died on that medical mission, buried alongside her blood-stained military badge. Even though I knew she was very much alive, thriving in another man's arms, just as I went to speak, the courtyard gate burst open. Bing Bing stood there, face dark with anger, drenched in sweat, and still wearing her green military uniform. She had clearly run all the way back. "I told you not to arrange any blind dates for Fang Yuan," she barked. She ripped the red envelope out of Aunt Lu's hands. "I am the one who will look after him. He will never remarry." Aunt Lu trembled in fear, but I stepped in. "Aunt Lu, please head home for now." I calmly cut her off, giving Aunt Lu a subtle nod to let her slip away quickly. Exiting, she bumped into Song Jinian, who glared in disgust at how defensively Bing Bing was shielding me. His gaze darkened. Once night fell, I quietly started packing my suitcases. Suddenly, my bedroom door slammed open. Song Jinian sneered. "Did you not learn your lesson? Are you still trying to seduce Ruoshu?" I did not even look at him, simply folding my clothes. "I am leaving this place tomorrow morning." Before I could finish, Jinian let out a dramatic shriek and threw himself down, faking intense leg pain. Right on cue, Bing Bing rushed inside, frantic. She did not even spare me a glance. Helping Jinian up, she hurried him out, leaving me alone to listen to his pathetic whining down the corridor. He pushed me. "Ru, can I ever dance again? What a cheap, laughable performance." At dawn, I grabbed my suitcase, ready for us to move on. "All right, let's dive into this drama." Right at the door, I ran into a furious Bing Bing. She looked exhausted, eyes completely bloodshot. "Why do you keep hurting Jinian?" she screamed, grabbing my wrist with a tight grip. "I spent all night at the hospital caring for him. He was born to be a dancer. How is he supposed to live?" I shook off her grip and walked away in silence. Seeing my suitcase, she yelled with rage. "Did you know I would throw you out? Is that why you packed?" I froze. "Throw me out?" Her face looked completely drained, but she coldly spat. "My pregnancy has been highly unstable lately. So my husband and I do not want to see your face for a very long time. Go back to your old house and stay there." Before I could react, she snatched my bag. "This will get you to the station." "No need," I said, taking back my luggage. But she stubbornly followed me, terrified that I might change my mind. Dragging me straight to the station, she ordered, "Stay quietly at your house until my baby is born. Then I will come find you. I am not going inside, so buy your ticket and leave. Jinian is still waiting for me at the hospital." After giving me those cold instructions, she turned around and quickly walked away. Now pay attention to this wild twist. Right in front of the ticket booth, I burst out laughing with pure relief. Goodbye, Ningbing. Watching her military jeep fade into the morning fog, I turned around and headed toward the bus bound for the port. That is where Subaihu was waiting to start our new life. In the early morning light, I looked at the military compound one last time. Goodbye forever, Ningbing. From today on, we will never meet again. Stepping off the bus at the harbor, I spotted a woman in a gray coat. She waved at me with pure excitement, my sweet Subaihu. Seeing the man she secretly loved for years, her gentle eyes sparkled with happiness. She abandoned her bags and ran straight to me. She shyly reached out to help me, murmuring, "Let me carry those heavy bags for you." I did not want to hesitate. After all, Subaihu and I were getting married soon to spend our lives together. Besides, I needed to get used to her presence, so I handed her the suitcase without a single doubt. A soft smile crossed my face. "Thank you." Hearing my warm tone, her cheeks and ears turned as red as a ripe tomato. She shyly scratched her head, smiling awkwardly. "Why are you being so formal?" I know what you are thinking, because I felt it too. I stopped and stared deeply at Subaihu. For the first time in years, I was actually stopping to look closely at this woman. From the matchmaker's suggestions to old high school rumors, everything pointed to a single clear truth. Subaihu loved me deeply. She was so devoted that she firmly rejected every single blind date suitor her parents presented. Her love was so immense that she gently turned down every passionate man who tried to win her heart. Even during my darkest years and my most desperate days, she ignored all the cruel gossip and waited for the day I would say yes. And even now, looking at her sideways, she stole glances at me too, but when our eyes met, she quickly looked away as a soft red color flushed her cheeks, instantly betraying her true feelings on accident. Such a tender gesture made me chuckle. But at that exact moment, a serious memory flashed through my mind. So, I decided to take the first step, calling her name with absolute seriousness. "Subaihu, we need to talk. I have decided to completely leave Ningbing in the past and move on, drawing a definitive line between my old life and those in it, so I can build a happy future with you. That is why I need to be completely open and honest with you today, to avoid any future doubts." Seeing my serious expression, her smile faded and she listened intently. Looking at me with deep affection, she said, "Go ahead." I sighed. "You know all about my messy past, right?" Of course she did. Ever since she first fell for me, she had closely followed my every step. Which is why, the moment she thought my previous marriage was finally over, she quickly sent a matchmaker so everyone around would know that I belonged to her and no one else. She nodded. "But trust me, this next truth will freeze you. My ex-wife is not dead." All right, let's jump into this shocker. Hearing those words, Subaiho's mind went completely blank as her bag slipped to the floor. A storm of emotions slammed into her. Did this mean his supposedly dead wife was actually still alive? Was her greatest dream about to vanish? She had never even gotten the chance to open her heart and confess the deep love she kept secret for so many years. Was she going to lose him before even starting? As Subaiho drowned in a sea of doubts, a warm hand firmly held hers and a comforting voice whispered in her ear. "Do not worry, I will never go back to her. Our marriage legally ended the moment she was declared dead. Besides, she is Jinian's wife now. Unbelievable, right?" The shocking news kept coming, leaving her stunned. So, I decided to tell her the whole truth about how Ba Ningbing stole her sister's place and how she planned to wait until the baby was born to reveal her true identity to me. I confessed the entire truth to the woman standing right before me. "Even if she returns one day trying to win me back, you have nothing to fear because there is no proof left of her identity." Watch closely here in the end. Ba Ningbing completely blocked her own path. Back then, hearing about Ba Ningbing's tragic sacrifice made me completely spiral into mental exhaustion. I stubbornly believed my sister-in-law was my real wife. To force me to let go, she solemnly swore in front of all the neighbors. She vowed that in this life, she would only be Jinian's wife. She even burned every single ID document that could prove who she actually was. She claimed she did it so I would finally accept that my wife was gone forever. Because of that, there is absolutely nothing left today to prove her real identity. If she tries to claim she is Ba Ningbing now, they will call me crazy and lock me up in an asylum. Or, if the truth somehow came out, she would end up ruined anyway. This has finally freed me from all future worries. Hearing this massive revelation, Subaiho's heart finally settled back into a peaceful rhythm. In her memories, Ba Ningbing was always a determined woman, extremely cautious, and precise with every move. It was wild she did all that for so-called love, though, honestly, it worked out perfectly for us. She can never take you away from me again. From now on, you are mine alone. With that thought, her gorgeous smile returned as she gently squeezed my hand. Subaiho, now that I have chosen you to build a life together, trust me, this means leaving all of that old pain behind. I will never look back for anyone, but as we start our life, please promise you will never betray or hurt me. You know me better than anyone. If you ever make that mistake, I will walk away forever. Before I could even finish speaking, Subaiho stepped forward and wrapped her arms tightly around me. The fresh scent of clean soap and the comforting warmth of her body rushed over my senses. I completely relaxed, feeling an incredible peace. Feng Yuan, I have loved you in silence for 10 long years. I waited all this time for you. I know better than anyone how hard it was to get this chance. And I understand the massive courage it took for you to let go of the past, open your heart to love again, and find the inner strength to do it. All I want is to love you with my entire soul, protect you, and never let anyone hurt you again. I know that mere words might not be enough to make you fully believe me yet. Since you are only just letting me into your life, I know your heart is not completely mine yet, but we have a lifetime ahead of us, and I will show you my deep love every single day. Subaiho's voice sounded quiet from start to finish, yet it carried a deeply unbreakable determination. It felt as if a gentle hand was caressing my frozen heart, slowly bringing it back to life, warming my soul and making a barren wasteland bloom once more. For some reason, tears suddenly filled my eyes. I said nothing, simply wrapping my arms around her, gently stroking her back as I held her close. Just then, the ship's horn echoed through the harbor, urging the remaining passengers to board quickly. Subaiho gently pulled away, picked up her luggage with one hand, and smiled warmly while holding mine tightly. Let us go now. Walk with me into our brand new life. I smiled back, and just like that, we walked into the crowd to start our wild journey together. Come along with me on this journey. The ship roars as black smoke rises like a giant hand waving goodbye. Passengers crowded against the deck railings, waving a bittersweet farewell to their loved ones, standing on the docks. Only Subayu and I stood close, silently watching the port fade into the distance until it vanished completely from our sight. After dropping me off at the train station, Bing Bing rushed back to the hospital without wasting a single second. Ever since I knocked Sanjinian down, his mood became extremely unstable, turning incredibly petty and irrational. He couldn't stand being away from her for even a minute. If she vanished for even a second, Song Jinian would throw a massive crying tantrum until he got his way. Thinking of that, Bing Bing quickened her pace even more. Sure enough, waking up to find his wife gone, Song Jinian burst into tears, screaming out, "Rushu, where are you?" He called out repeatedly with no answer, sparking a wave of panic that made the pain in his injured leg throb. Yet he ignored the agony, forcing his weak body out of bed, absolutely determined to find her no matter what. Right then, Ba Ningbing, the very person he was desperately longing for, kicked the door open and rushed inside. She saw him struggling to stand, on the verge of collapsing. Watch this emotional moment closely. Ba Ningbing's heart squeezed, and she quickly caught him in her arms, wrapping him in her familiar embrace. All of Song Jinian's built-up anxiety and terror exploded all at once. He clung tightly to Ba Ningbing's neck, slowly looking up at her as his tears fell and splashed onto the floor. "I thought you didn't want me anymore." Ba Ningbing's recent strange behavior toward him, combined with my subtle provocations, had left San Jinian feeling incredibly insecure and threatened. Having witnessed his mother's downfall in past family feuds and suffered 10 years, he knew exactly what total ruin meant. Now, sheer terror consumed his heart, fearing Bingbing would abandon him, just like his father did to his mother. For so long, she had spoiled him. She hadn't just rescued him from misery, she also gave him a luxurious life he never dared to dream of. Ever since she returned from the battlefield, her love seemed even more obsessive, spending every night by his side. Her affection was an unbreakable addiction. He simply couldn't imagine a world where she wasn't there. I know what you're thinking. He used every trick to avoid abandonment, but waking up alone, she was gone. Only Ba Ningbing's guard was there to tell him she had personally escorted me back home. Song Jinian waited for what felt like an eternity, but she didn't return. Absolute panic gripped his soul. He dreaded what might happen between her and me. He couldn't bear to imagine where he and his unborn child would go. Fortunately, she made it back on time. Seeing Song Jinian's miserable state in her arms, any words Ba Ningbing had planned to say vanished into a soft sigh. Gently brushing away his tears with her fingertips, she tried to soothe him until he finally started to calm down. Bingbing explained her delay, telling him that she originally planned to escort me directly to the Fang residence. But worried about him, she left me near the train station to head straight back to the hospital. Unexpectedly, her car broke down on the way. Fearing Song Jinian would panic, she left the car with her guard and ran the rest of the way. Only then did Song Jinian notice her sweat-soaked forehead and damp clothes. Heartbroken and deeply moved, he gently wiped her face. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he bit his lower lip slightly and asked, "But Rushu, is it really fine to leave Fenguan all alone at the station?" While pretending to be deeply concerned, San Jinian was secretly cursing me, desperately wishing for some tragedy to strike me. In his mind, if something terrible happened to me, I would never get the chance to return and seduce his wife. Hearing this, Bingbing stiffened up slightly. But she quickly shook her head, comforting Sung Jinian as he held on to her, saying he's an adult who can manage. She thought to herself, all these years without her, hadn't I managed to get by perfectly fine alone? It was just a trip home, what could go wrong? Besides, she had already called my parents to collect me tonight. She lay down beside Song Jinian. So what do you and I think happens next? He snuggled against her chest, gently stroking her belly as they eagerly talked about their future baby. Let's dive in as Song Jinian suddenly gets incredibly curious about what their child would look like. Who do you think they will look like, Ru? The hand caressing Bai Ningbing's belly suddenly froze. It doesn't matter as long as you're happy, she replied, even though my face suddenly flashed in her mind. She couldn't help but wonder what her child would look like if she had actually had one with me. If it were a boy, she wanted him to look like me, fiercely protecting his parents with devotion. And if it were a girl, she wanted her to look like her, spoiling her two treasures while imagining that sweet scene. Bai Ningbing's cold expression softened with a strange, sudden tenderness. She smiled slightly, and seeing her so soft, Song Jinian felt a sudden spark of passion and held her tighter. Bao Shu stared intently at Song Jinian. She noticed his suggestive look and passionate gestures. Though she shivered slightly, her mind remained completely sharp, knowing her pregnancy was a lie. Her mission was basically over. I know exactly what you are thinking right now, but she only stayed to secure this fake birth. Her heart only yearned to return to our home, with absolutely no desire to be intimate with Song Jinian again. Taking a deep breath to calm her nerves, she gently tried to push Song Jinian's hand away. But Song Jinian's desire was at its absolute peak, and he was not letting her go that easily. Thinking she was just shy, he whispered in her ear, "Ru, we are married. The morning sickness is gone and everything is stable. Besides, the doctor said it is completely safe." Those words went off like an alarm in Bai Ningbing's head, snapping her right back to cold reality. She had been so lost in the dream of returning home to me that she forgot her current role. She still had to play Bao Shu, Song Jinian's wife, and perform her supposed duties. With a dark look in her eyes, she leaned in on her own and pressed her lips against his. Beneath the blankets, she kissed his face as their breathing quickly began to speed up. She kissed him deeply, using her other hand to carefully shield her belly, where she was faking her pregnancy. Song Jinian's eyes went hazy, drowning in sudden passion, while outside, the rain poured down without mercy. Thunder rattled the closed windows as heavy dark clouds rolled in, bringing an endless storm. Mist slowly drifted through the cracks of the half-open window. A hand drew the hospital curtains shut, leaving only a dim lamp that cast their tangled shadows on the wall. By the next morning, the storm finally stopped, leaving behind the fresh scent of damp earth and green grass. Morning sunlight filtered through the ancient trees, dancing with elegant grace all over the ground. And just like that, with the morning sun lighting up the garden, this doubtful chapter finally ends. Flowers, battered by the violent storm, lay ruined on the ground with their petals scattered everywhere. Join me to discover this story as the neighborhood starts waking up. The sound of bicycles, shouting street vendors, and laughter filled the morning air completely. This noisy morning symphony woke Ningbing in the hospital bed. Gently letting go of her tight embrace around Song Jinian, she quietly slipped out of bed. Bending down to pick up the clothes scattered across the floor, she threw everything into the laundry basket. Then she opened the closet and pulled out a fresh set of clothes to change into immediately. She slipped out of the room quietly, tracking the time. I should have been home from my long overnight trip, but fearing my extreme exhaustion and knowing I desperately needed some rest, she held back her burning anxiety and did not call the Feng residence yet. Now that the night had finally passed, she figured I had surely recovered my strength by now. Holding on to that hope, she rushed to a payphone to dial the Feng home. The phone rang repeatedly with no answer. Ningbing's heart sank with every single ring. Just as she was about to hang up and try again, my father's voice answered. "Who is this?" Her eyes instantly lit up with sheer joy. Uncle, it is me. It is me." My father only let out a cold sigh before asking, "Why are you calling? Do you need something? Come along with me, as Destiny finally starts collecting the debt for our female lead's lies, beginning with a freezing cold phone call from her father-in-law. He had always treated her with immense warmth, never with the freezing distance she was feeling right this second. She gripped the receiver tightly, feeling the unmistakable shift in my father's tone. She couldn't figure out what was going wrong. Hearing her silence on the other end, my father almost hung up on her. Snapping back to reality, she quickly asked if Fang Yuan had made it home yet and if he could come to the phone. A tense silence filled the air. Suddenly, my mother snatched the receiver from him, answering with a voice dripping in pure sarcasm. "You really love sticking your nose into everything. Do you seriously expect to control every single step of Fang Yuan's life as well?" Whether he is back or not, shouldn't you know that better than anyone? Bing Bing froze completely. In that exact moment, she remembered the real reason why the Fang family held such a massive grudge against her. Back when everyone believed I was a grieving widower, the Fangs felt deep pity for my terrible situation. Fearing I would suffer in complete loneliness, they planned to bring me back and find me a good, virtuous wife. But since Bing Bing was still alive, she refused to let her husband marry someone else, fighting their plans with everything she had. Pay attention here, because she actually fell to her knees before them, begging and swearing she would care for him just to keep control. The Fangs did not buy her empty promises and stood firm in their decision to keep me far away from her. In the end, she had to pull strings with high-ranking officials just to win that bitter dispute. From that day on, the Fang family never offered her another kind glance or a single polite word. Knowing she was entirely at fault, she promised herself she would go apologize the moment she gave birth to her baby. She would show up at their house to admit her wrongs. Hanging up, my mother looked at my father with absolute disgust. She was furious. The nerve of that woman actually calling to ask about Fang Yuan after everything she had done. In truth, the Fangs knew exactly that the person on the other end of the line was indeed Bing Bing. The matchmaker had already updated them on my wedding with Subaiho and our plans to move to the island very soon. I know what you are thinking. Is this too harsh? Not at all. She started this web of lies and now it is payback time. They were simply giving her a taste of her own medicine, paying her back in the exact same coin. My father's expression was equally serious, but he held back and gently urged his wife to remain calm. He would not let things end so easily for her. Meanwhile, Bing Bing's medical checkup happened to fall right on Mother Bai's 60th birthday. Over the last few years, the Bai family saw their social status skyrocket, all thanks to having one martyr daughter and another serving as a commander. On the day of the banquet, their home was buzzing, with influential guests constantly arriving and leaving. Even Bing Bing's high-ranking superiors showed up in person. For a moment, Mother Bai felt incredibly prestigious and proud before everyone. Looking around, she saw Bing Bing standing on her left alongside her eldest son-in-law, Song Jinian. On her right was her youngest daughter, married in Beijing, who dropped everything to travel by train with her husband for this grand celebration. However, one single empty chair remained at the end of the table. It was the spot reserved for her second son-in-law, Fang Yuan. Mother Bai wanted Bing Bing to bring me along, but she excused it by claiming the journey would be far too exhausting. She said she feared the trip might hurt my health and cause me to attack the eldest son-in-law, Song Jinian, again. With that, she successfully convinced Mother Bai to drop the entire matter. The Bai family always struggled to have children. Since her daughter was finally pregnant, Mother Bai wanted to avoid any unexpected risks to the baby. Her only regret was that this massive birthday party would not feature a complete family reunion. Right at that exact second, a soft knock came from the front door. Mother Bai got up quickly, saying it was time to start. Bing Bing tried to help her walk, but she gently waved her off. "You are carrying a life now and feeling heavy. Better let your own husband be the one to protect and look after you." Bing Bing's face lit up with absolute embarrassment. She glanced at Song Jinian as he stepped up to support her. Their eyes met with affection, but she quickly looked away to hide it. Seeing the young couple acting so sweet, all the guests could not stop showering them with endless praise. And that is where we leave it, watching a lavish feast built entirely on lies that you and I know are about to crumble. Let's dive into the drama, as Ba Ningbing proudly displays the luxury color television she worked so hard to get. On a stage nearby, actors performed the traditional operas that Mother Bai loved so dearly. As beautiful fireworks began to light up the night sky, the celebration reached its absolute peak. Bing Bing and Song Jinian carefully guided Mother Bai toward the main table, standing close by her side. Sitting on the table was a massive longevity peach cake, custom ordered from the most famous bakery in the region. Surrounded by loud applause and warm wishes from the guests, Mother Bai smiled, ready to cut the cake. But at that exact moment, the closed front doors were violently kicked open. The Fang family burst in with murderous rage, leading a massive crowd of people behind Ru Shu. Instantly, the once joyful atmosphere turned as freezing and heavy as solid ice. Trust me, absolutely nobody saw this coming. Everyone froze in shock as the Fangs stormed the place. Bai Ningbing went pale the second she heard her name shouted with such intense hostility. She had no idea why the Fangs traveled so far to cause trouble, and worse, she noticed I was nowhere in the crowd. Suspicion and pure panic rushed through her, flooding her mind with 1,000 chaotic questions all at once. But just as she stepped forward to demand some answers, Mother Bai forced an awkward smile and tried to grab my mother's hand, chirping, "Dear in-laws, what brings you here so suddenly?" But seeing through Mother Bai's fake warmth, my mother did not even bother to look at her. She slapped her hand away and barked with utter disgust, "Shut up, and do not ever call me your in-law again." Terrified, Bai Ningbing rushed over to support her stumbling mother. With a glaring look, she demanded, "What is going on here?" That only made my mother angrier as she screamed back, "What am I doing? I should be asking what your rotten family did to my son. You swore to everyone that you would take good care of him. Look at him now, it has barely been any time, and you have already tortured him into this tragic, broken state." With a massive scandal exploding, absolutely none of the guests wanted to miss out on the drama. They crowded around, eager for a show, while the Bai family shook with fear, exchanging terrified glances with one another. I know you and I are thinking the exact same thing. They just wanted to hide their dirty secrets inside. But my father roared with rage, instantly ordering his men to block the entrance to the house. "No way. Suddenly you care about shame, but where was that shame when you ruthlessly tortured my son? Where was your decency then? Let me ask you directly. Did you force my son to take the blame for your husband's illegal resettlement quota business? Were you the ones who pushed my son toward his death, leaving him to be buried alive during that horrific mine collapse? Did you all just stand by and watch that trash husband of yours start a fire to kill him, without lifting a single finger to save him?" Every dark secret my father exposed hit like a physical blow, leaving the entire birthday party whispering in utter disbelief. Shocked, angry whispers echoed through the crowd. Mother Bai, completely blind to these horrors, went white as a ghost and glared at Rusu with eyes full of dark suspicion. "Rusu, is this actually true?" "You bet it is 100% true." Before Bing Bing could even speak, my mother pulled out a stack of hard evidence and threw it across the entire yard. The white papers scattered through the air like snowflakes, falling straight into the hands of the stunned guests. As they read the files, everyone gasped in absolute horror, unable to believe their eyes. Is all this filth actually true? How could one family be this cruel and heartless? How could they abuse a hero's husband? Fang Yuan is a poor widower, yet they framed him for their eldest son-in-law's crimes. They deliberately tried to drive poor Fang Yuan to his grave. Hearing everyone turn their backs on the Bai family, all the deep resentment my mother had bottled up finally erupted into a devastating, heartbreaking scream. Suddenly, she fell to her knees on the ground, shattering into tears of pure agony, with every single word cutting deep into the hearts of everyone watching. "This place is crawling with soulless, evil monsters. You tortured my sweet boy until he barely even looks human anymore. If you never cared, why destroy him? Trust me, their downfall has just begun. Let's dive into this drama. Why did they block us from bringing him home? Oh, my sweet boy, what a tragic destiny." The scene at the birthday banquet quickly turned into absolute, pure chaos. Harsh accusations, my mother's heartbreaking sobs, and cruel insults from the crowd filled the heavy air without end. Those shouts struck Mother Ba like sharp slaps to the face, cornering her. She collapsed completely, unable to endure even one more second of this intense, public humiliation. Clutching her chest, her breathing became shallow and rapid, and suddenly her eyes rolled back as she fainted on the spot. Amidst this disaster, Ningbing's superior, a seasoned military commissioner, stepped in firmly. He stood right before the crowd to quiet down and stabilize the tense situation, and then seriously asked the Fang family how they wanted to resolve this matter. My mother, supported by a relative, quickly wiped away the tears streaming down her pale cheeks. With absolute determination, she spoke in a voice of ice. I want my son, Fang Yuan, to cut all ties with this cursed Ba family. Right then, lightning split the sky, followed by an ear-splitting crack of thunder that shook the entire estate. The flash illuminated the terrified faces of everyone in the courtyard, especially Ningbing, who turned pale as a corpse, completely bloodless, like a living corpse with all of its strength suddenly drained away. What did she just hear? They were demanding a total break from the Ba family. Never. She could not let that happen. The baby she carried inside her was due very soon. Besides, she was about to fulfill her sister's dying wish, ready to return to my side as her true self. She planned to confess the whole truth so we could finally restart our happy life together, just like before. But right as her plan was about to work, the Fang family appeared out of nowhere, demanding her husband leave her. She couldn't let it happen. Her lips desperately whispered, "No, never." Yet, her weak protests seemed completely foolish against the unyielding steel determination of the Fang family. Ever since they uncovered Bingbing's ruthless true colors, the Fangs had begun to hate her and her family with all of their soul. At first, they believed their son would have an amazing life by marrying into that noble household. They never imagined they were actually sending him straight into a burning pit of fire. If they had only known sooner, they would have risked their own lives to save their son from that living hell. Luckily, it's not too late. Now, pay attention, because Ningbing's major slip-up played right into their hands. This way, by using his wife's reported death, their son could draw a clear line and cut ties forever. This was 1,000 times easier than going through a complicated military divorce. Plus, the Ba family had no excuse to hold him unless she chose to confess her true identity publicly. But if she did that, she would end up behind bars instantly. For her, that fate was far worse than death. The Fangs had calculated this exact scenario. That's why they chose Mother Ba's party, forcing her to show her face if she dared confess who she was. I know you're thinking the same. This is a masterstroke to ruin them. With what right do you oppose this, Rushu? My mother emphasized those final words heavily, as if to remind the young woman of the false identity she wore. Out of respect for my son, you already played your sister's part for 2 years. And you speak of suffering? But my son has endured too much agony. No matter what he owed you, hasn't he paid that cursed debt in full? Besides, if anyone has a right to protest here, it should only be my son's lawful wife. Your sister Bingbing, you are merely his sister-in-law. In fact, you are just a stranger with no relation to him. With what right do you protest? I am not her, I am Ba Ningbing. And a thunderous lightning bolt cracked the sky again. The commotion died down instantly, giving way to a deathly silence as everyone stared at her in complete disbelief. The shock left them completely open-mouthed. Did they hear right? What on earth did she just say? She claimed to be Ba Ningbing, as if she were a ghost. Beside her, Sanjinian froze from sheer shock. He forgot the pain in his leg, ignored everything, and gripped her hand with intense strength. Rushu, what crazy things are you saying? Even to keep your brother-in-law, you shouldn't spout such nonsense out of nowhere. Aren't you afraid your sister's ghost will come for you? It's true, Rushu, you have completely lost your mind. My mother smiled, seeing her walk right into her own trap. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. All right, you and I are about to dive into this madness. Is there proof you are Ba Ningbing when everyone saw her corpse? We even watched them bury her coffin, did we not? A person can eat anything, but they should never speak so recklessly. Seriously, this is no joke. Ba Ningbing stood there, completely frozen to the spot. She clenched her fists tightly. A fierce, internal battle of doubt and fear was written all over her face. Finally, she looked up with absolute resolve. I am Ba Ningbing, not Bushu. The one who died back then was my sister, not me. Ba Ningbing had been too careless. She wanted to wait until the baby was born to confess the truth. But everything changed. Now they were trying to corner her husband, pressuring Fang Yuan to abandon her once and for all. They were backed into a corner without mercy. Facing such a shock, she had no other choice. She could not afford to lose him. She spent years by Song Jinian's side and even conceived his child. Even if she was not by his side in the future, he would find the strength to keep moving forward. Thunder rumbled loudly before the storm. Rain fell relentlessly, beating rhythmically against the roof in an endless downpour. The roaring deluge completely swallowed the woman's voice as she stood before the crowd. Now pay attention, because Song Jinian heard every word by her side, feeling the devastating impact of a lightning strike. His mind went completely blank. Shaking his head in disorientation, he took several trembling steps backward. He banged his knee against a table and fell to the floor in pain. Aksu, you are joking, right? The wife he had slept beside every single night for 2 years, the one who had just confessed her eternal love. That very same woman who shared countless intimate moments with him was now coldly declaring the truth to the world, revealing the ultimate betrayal to him. She had never been his real wife, but rather his sister-in-law, the very woman he used to despise. He looked up at her, trembling all over. Are you playing with me? Song Jinian desperately searched her face for answers. But under the spotlight, her face seemed completely distorted, turning unrecognizable. All his lingering doubts were finally cleared up. The person whose tastes and attitude had changed so radically. The one taking care of her widowed brother-in-law and rejecting suitors for him, it was her all along. The one who looked at him so tenderly in bed, even if she secretly longed for someone else. The one who rushed to save him from his injuries and stumbled drunk into his room that night. I know what you are thinking. Everything finally made sense under the storm shaking that lamp. Song Jinian burst into tears, a heartbreaking wail that grew louder with pure despair. Just like his cries of pain 2 years ago when he learned of his wife's sacrifice, that delayed, hopeless suffering finally crushed him today. Unable to bear the shock, his eyes rolled back, and he blacked out. Bai Ningbing tried to lift him, but the shock weakened her so much her vision blurred and she collapsed. A pool of blood began to spread across the floor. She had a miscarriage. Call an ambulance immediately. The chaotic scene ended with both lying unconscious on the floor. After hours of medical treatment, Song Jinian was finally out of danger. But Bai Ningbing's baby did not survive. Her mother slapped her hard, screaming that she was a fool. If only she had held out just a little longer. Just a few months, the Bai family heir would have been born. But she chose to confess on that tragic day. It not only cost them their grandchild's life, but it also stripped their family of any remaining dignity. The whole city now knows the second daughter pretended to be her sister to crawl into her brother-in-law's bed. Now the Fangs will not even have to struggle to keep their distance. The commissioner himself stepped in to order that all ties with the Bai family be completely severed. And because of this massive scandal, she was stripped of her rank as regiment commander. She lost everything in an instant. Her mother raised her hand in fury once more, but Bai Ningbing looked like an empty, soulless shell. No matter how many blows and insults her mother threw at her, she made no effort to react. A nurse interrupted, announcing the patient was awake and asking who would go in. "I will go see Jinian." And that is where we leave it today. She snapped out of it, demanding to go in since he knew nothing. Let's dive into a story where she feels she owes him her entire life and will do anything to make up for it. With that in mind, she ignored her mother's screaming behind her and pushed open the door to Jinian's hospital room. As the door clicked shut, the noise outside vanished completely. Ningbing turned her gaze toward the hospital bed. There he lay, his face as pale as a ghost and his eyes completely hollow. She clenched her fists, stepped closer, and sat beside Jinian. "This is all my fault, and I am truly sorry. Tell me how to make it up to you, and I will." After a long silence, Jinian finally reacted. He slowly turned his head to look at her, staring at this broken woman with bloodshot eyes. His eyes held a storm of complex emotions. How on earth did she think she could pay for his pain? He had yearned for his wife's return day and night. They shared tender, intimate nights, and he felt absolute joy when she got pregnant with his child. Everything seemed to be going so perfectly. But she shattered that beautiful dream, confessing it was just to keep him alive by using the baby as a reason to fight. And here's the worst part, guys. Now that the lie is exposed, he has no wife and absolutely nothing. His child is gone. His reputation is ruined. Now, he is left entirely alone in this cold world. What else could she possibly offer to make it up to him? Jinian gripped the bedsheets until his knuckles turned white. His voice sounded as rough as sandpaper. "Ningbing, trying to make amends is not what you should have done. You should have never shattered that lie, letting me live in that beautiful, perfect dream. Instead of dragging me through this agonizing heartbreak over and over." Ningbing closed her eyes, her voice growing weaker. At this point, words were completely useless. The clock on the wall just kept ticking away ruthlessly. Only the faint sound of their breathing filled the room. God knows how much time passed before he finally spoke. "Any kind of repayment?" Ningbing hesitated for a second before nodding. Jinian smiled, but it was hollow, empty of any warmth. "Fine. Then I demand that you marry me." Hearing this, Ningbing suddenly bolted upright from her chair. "No way! The only man she loves is me. She only views me as her husband and will never marry another. This is ridiculous. Please ask for anything else." Faced with such absurdity, Song Jinian burst out laughing. You and I both know his laugh was dripping with pure irony. "Is that really so absurd? What about when you posed as your sister just to sleep with me and have my baby? Was that not insane? Do you have any idea what you did? Because of you, my reputation is ruined, and I can never have a family. How do you expect me to rebuild my life now? Let me make one thing crystal clear, Ningbing. For the rest of your days, your only option is to marry me." "No." "Oh, yes, you will," interrupted Mother Bai, who was listening outside. She stormed into the room, utterly distraught, over already losing one of her daughters and a son-in-law. And now, she was right on the verge of losing her second potential son-in-law, too. Mother Bai was so anxious she felt ready to collapse. She never imagined Song Jinian would actually propose to Ningbing. This was the best possible news for her, though Ningbing simply could not believe her ears. Even at this critical moment, her mother had to interfere. "Ningbing, our family has already hurt Fang Yuan too much. We cannot afford to hurt Jinian as well. Agree to this right now. Once he gets discharged, you two are marrying." "That is completely impossible. Feng Yuan is my only husband." Ningbing's face darkened entirely as she said this. She had already hurt Feng Yuan once in the past. She could not bear to hurt him again, especially by marrying another. "No matter what you think, Mother, I only want Feng Yuan." Suddenly, the door burst open from the outside. Ningbing, we have urgent news about where Fang Yuan is right now. Really? Instantly, Ningbing's gloomy face lit up with pure joy. Leaving everything behind, she ran right out of the room. Ningbing, stop right there! No matter how much her mother screamed behind her back, she did not look back once. On that tiny southern island, I admit I had completely underestimated my own physical condition. During the 3-day ocean voyage, I spent 2 days seasick, and the last day just sleeping deeply. From the moment I stepped off the boat until we reached the Su family home, I relied entirely on Su Zi's help. After being bedridden for almost half a month, I finally started regaining my strength and closely observing my surroundings. Our brand new home, Susie's and mine. A cozy 2-story mountain house where you and I will continue this journey. You and I are about to dive into a beautiful story of healing. In this cozy house, surrounded by orchards and a scenic pond, framed by wooden fences right at the water's edge, Su Baihu sat quietly in a small folding chair, wearing comfy clothes while casting her fishing rod. Seeing me, she offered a chair, inviting me to sit while asking anxiously about my health. Lately, unable to adapt to the climate, I lost my appetite and shed weight. Seeing me so weak and frail broke Su Baihu's heart with worry. So, she kept asking around, changing our daily menu, just to cook things I might actually enjoy. Today, I finally had the strength to go down and join her. I nodded softly and leaned against her shoulder. I told her I was feeling much better. Hearing this, Su Baihu could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Holding my hand gently, she confessed with deep regret that she never would have chosen this remote island if she had known. You see, Su Baihu is a news reporter, which means she is constantly traveling all over the country. This time, she decided to settle in the far south to send the latest updates straight to her office. But the truth is, she picked this place for another reason, because I still had not accepted her marriage proposal. Back then, Su Baihu figured that if I rejected her, she would simply pack up and leave, going far away so she would never see me again, fearing she might lose control of her desperate desire to keep me. But pay attention here, because right as she signed the transfer, her entire life took an unexpected turn. The matchmaker called to say I had agreed to marry her, suddenly granting her 2 greatest wishes all at once. Yet, her immense joy turned into heavy guilt when she saw how hard it was for me to adapt here. He held her hands and smiled. I promised I would adjust, since supporting her dream is my duty as her fiancé. Hearing that word, Su Baihu hugged me tightly and whispered softly in my ear. And speaking of that, we needed to start planning our wedding. Since this island was so remote, it was nearly impossible for outsiders to travel here. On top of that, our parents' health was not the best. So, neither family could attend, though they still sent dowries and precious gifts. Discussing the wedding made me feel quite shy. So I playfully asked her what made her want to marry me so suddenly. You and I both felt that sweet, tender forehead kiss just now, right? Her eyes sparkled with deep, passionate love. She wanted to be my wife immediately, her ultimate dream, for 25 years. Ever since she first laid eyes on me back in our school days, no one else ever held her heart. Back then, I was solely focused on studying, ignored romance, and flatly rejected anyone who sent me love letters. She felt a mix of relief and sadness. Happy that I belonged to no one else, but terrified she could never win me over. After much thought, Su Baihu gathered her courage to finally confess. Unfortunately, before she could speak, graduation separated us as we went off to different universities. By the time Su Baihu heard about me again, I was already married to Ningbing. That night, she drank surrounded by empty bottles, but she couldn't give up, choosing to wait patiently for a chance. And finally, that day came when I lost my wife. Hearing the news, Su Baihu could not hide her sheer joy. She even wanted to set off fireworks, Without telling her parents, she rushed to find a matchmaker to ask for my hand. Though I turned her down countless times back then, in the end, her devotion brought us this happy ending. Remembering all of this, she pulled me even closer to her chest. The next morning, Subaihu and I hopped in the car and drove along the new highway toward the distant pier. Being such a remote place, we relied on cargo ships that, because of the massive distance, only arrived once a month. So, on the 15th of every month, locals rushed to the harbor to shop at the ship's bustling market. Subaihu shielded me with her arm to keep the crowd from pushing me, gently guiding me inside the vessel. Since the ship came so rarely, the goods on board were incredibly diverse and abundant. Literally nothing was missing. Shortly after boarding, Subaiho had already picked out powdered milk, malt extract, cassia oil, shirts, a butterfly watch, and many other things, almost all of them meant for me. Seeing her spend so much made me worry for her wallet, so I stopped her stay with us to see what happens next. Hey everyone, come along with me for this beautiful story. Bayu, this is too much, I said as Subaiho held my hand. From the moment I gave you my heart, I started saving every single coin, just to give you a life of luxury, where you would never want for anything or envy anyone. Besides, if my money isn't for you to spend, who else is it for? My wealthy family sends us more than enough every year. Seeing her so completely determined, I just didn't have the heart to say anything to stop her. I also decided to buy her several gorgeous dresses and a brand new bicycle to easily get around the island. By the time we finished shopping and left, the back of the pickup truck was completely packed. In the end, we had to strap the largest items onto the roof just to make it back home. Days later, Subaiho and I brought gifts to the island's most famous wedding officiant, asking him to select a highly auspicious date for our marriage. After careful consideration, the officiant finally decreed that we would get married in exactly 1 month. With the big date officially set, we scrambled to get all the wedding preparations moving quickly, and our very first step was to apply for the marriage introduction letter from the official authorities. The moment we signed next to the voluntary marriage clause, an intense wave of pure joy flooded my chest. Now, pay close attention here. We were seconds away from becoming husband and wife. Off to the civil registry we went. As we signed the marriage certificate, neither of us could hide our absolute excitement. Staring down at the marriage document beneath my pen, my mind suddenly drifted back to events from many years ago. I remembered registering my marriage with Ningbing. Back then, I didn't have a clue what real love actually was. On top of that, I was just an inexperienced young guy who understood absolutely nothing about married life. I relied entirely on the staff's instructions and Ningbing, so signing that certificate didn't bring me any joy at all. Instead, I only saw a dark, blurry future. I had no idea what role I'd play in her life. Everything was one big question mark, but Ningbing kept insisting that I was simply feeling way too stressed. She would gently comfort me, telling me not to be afraid or worry about a single thing, promising she would handle everything for both of us, and boy did she keep that promise to the letter. From our very first wedding night, to our daily routine, she was always the one calling the shots. She babied me so much that I became totally dependent. So when I heard of her tragic death on top of the immense grief, I felt completely lost. I was just so incredibly used to her coddling and protecting me all the time. Without her, I had no clue how to go on. Honestly, Ningbing was basically my entire world. Because of that, there were dark moments where I fell into despair, seriously thinking of ending it all to escape. But eventually, through that intense pain, I slowly learned to grow up and live a much more independent life. I realized I could survive on my own and face whatever obstacles life decided to throw my way. I know what you're thinking, but just as I accepted that bitterness, I uncovered Ningbing's absolute darkest secret. That shocking discovery hit me hard, feeling like 1,000 bolts of lightning striking all at once. My feelings for her completely froze over, and I decided I had to walk away from her memory forever. I had just accepted Subaiho's marriage proposal. Marrying her meant burying my past completely and working as hard as possible to be an exemplary husband. Feeling excitement and passion for marriage again seemed impossible, but today I discovered I was dead wrong. Maybe it was Subaiho's beautiful presence lately, but my heart started beating with absolute strength once again. I began dreaming of our future together, imagining all the wonderful things we would do from now on. With a massive smile on my face, I leaned down to sign our marriage certificate and pressed my fingerprint onto the paper. Subaiho was just as deeply moved. Seeing the document right in front of her, she felt an inexplicable joy, and to check if this was real or a dream, she gave her leg a hard pinch. Feeling the actual physical pain, she let out a huge smile. She let out a silly giggle that caught my attention. "What is it?" I asked. Smiling with pure innocence, she said it was nothing. I thought I was still dreaming, so I pinched myself. Her goofy antics instantly made me burst out laughing. We sat down for our wedding photo. And, trust me, you and I are about to see a brand new beginning. Get your hearts ready. Today, you and I are watching Subaiho and me get cheek to cheek, guided by our photographer. We smiled for the camera, her warm breath brushing against my face, making my cheeks blush completely red. My hands nervously toyed with my shirt, shyness totally took over, and I barely dared to look at her from this close. Subaiho could hear my racing heartbeat. That rapid rhythm made her so incredibly nervous that she went completely stiff. Her back was drenched in sweat, and she kept her fists clenched tight inside her pockets. She tried to calm down, but her heart raced like a frightened little deer. "Look at the camera now." Click! A white flash went off, and our freshly taken photo was instantly printed onto our marriage certificate. It bore the official civil registry seal. Just like a newlywed couple, Subaiho and I expressed our deepest thanks. Receiving the certificate from the staff, we handed them the wedding candies we had carefully prepared. Subaiho held the newly printed marriage certificate, gently tracing our photo over and over with her fingers. Touching the paper felt as sweet as candy. A soft fragrance filled her senses, washing a wave of pure happiness over her. The words husband and wife shone brightly in Subaiho's eyes, forming a massive symbol of double happiness. Those characters printed on the paper seemed to explode into endless, brilliant fireworks. Imagine this, we can almost hear the entire world cheering for her long-awaited dream marriage. Like wild roses climbing up a wall, her fingertips unconsciously traced that bright red official stamp. The texture of the paper made her skin shiver to the rhythm of her racing heart. Finally, her fingers stopped on the date at the bottom. April 20th, the day we united our lives, marking the beautiful beginning of her brand new, happy existence. She had finally fulfilled her heart's deepest desire. She took a deep breath, trying to hold back the overwhelming emotions. But the tears welling up in her eyes completely gave away her immense joy and excitement. That feeling gushed out like an unstoppable spring. Subaiho could not hold back anymore and suddenly hugged me tightly. Thrilled, she grabbed my hands and spun me around. "I am married. I have a husband. What are you doing?" I cried out in surprise, but she shouted joyfully, "Fang Yuan, we are finally married. You are finally my husband." She spoke with so much pure excitement that passers-by could not help but turn around to look at us. Hearing Subaiho, other passing couples giggled softly, giving us warm looks filled with sweet, heartfelt wishes. I looked at her and saw my own reflection in her eyes. She stared with such burning love it made my heart race. I lowered my head slightly, letting a gentle, soft smile spread across my face. What an incredibly beautiful moment. Let's appreciate this rare happiness as night fell under the moon with someone who loved me. Stars flickered across the vast dark sky, casting a subtle but absolutely enchanting glow over everything. The September breeze whispered through the treetops, where a few late-blooming flowers showed off their beautiful colors. This was our wedding night. I had already gotten ready and was lying in bed for a while. Subayu, however, sat frozen on the edge of the bed, completely lost in thought and not daring to look at me directly. Finally, she took a deep breath as if taking a huge step and turned to face me. "Fang Yuan, maybe we should wait until the actual day of our wedding ceremony." Once the initial rush of signing the certificate faded, Subayu felt a sudden, intense wave of nervousness. That feeling came with a slight fear. She was absolutely terrified that all of this was just a beautiful dream. But the very next second, I wrapped my arms around her neck, enveloping her in my scent as I pulled her sweet body close. "Subayu, we are already husband and wife. I told you before, you are the only owner of my heart. I will love only you and give myself completely. Do you not want me?" Subayu stared blankly, totally hypnotized by how I was seducing her. Then I gently laid her down beneath me. "Of course I want you," she whispered. I took her left hand, intertwining our fingers tightly. The curtains were completely closed, leaving only a tiny wall lamp turned on. Its warm golden glow lit up the room until dawn. After crossing that line, the bond between Subayu and me grew so much deeper. When morning arrived, she would usually leave a sweet, tender kiss on my forehead. And in the evenings, returning from work, she always brought me a bouquet of wildflowers picked along the road. Saying goodbye in the mornings, I hugged her tight, slipping candies and a boiled egg into her coat to remind her to eat if she got hungry. At dusk, I would leave the living room light on with a bowl of hot rice and sweet soup waiting for her on the stove. Then I sat knitting, waiting for her return, a heartwarming ending that you and I thoroughly enjoyed watching unfold. Let's dive into this story. She used to ride bikes with me along the coast, sometimes stopping to feel the ocean breeze and collect seashells by the shore. Eventually, our wedding day arrived. Since Subzu and I already lived together, neither of us wanted some over-the-top, flashy ceremony. We kept the rituals simple. On the big day, amidst exploding fireworks, Subzu rode in on a forever bicycle draped in bright red silk. The back seat was covered in red cloth. Wearing a matching red veil, she rode me along our designated wedding route. The streets were packed with guests and onlookers, surrounded by loud cheers, applause, and everyone's blessings. The groomsmen showered the air with wedding candy representing our love, filling the sky before the crowd completely surrounded us. I carried Subaiho on my back, stepped over the traditional fire pit, and we happily headed toward the main hall. Fireworks lit up the night sky once again. From the distant harbor, a ship's horn echoed loud as it docked. Waves of passengers poured off the deck like flowing water. Stepping onto the pier was Bing Bing, who had traveled thousands of miles searching for her husband. It all started when she realized I wasn't with my parents but had suddenly and mysteriously vanished. Bing Bing went absolutely crazy, searching for me everywhere. Finally, after a month of pure despair, she found a clue leading to me. She discovered I had run off to this remote island. A massive wave of mixed emotions completely overwhelmed her. She wanted to buy a ticket immediately, but staff informed her that due to the island's special status, she had to pass strict security screenings first. And trust me, getting approval was practically impossible. Because of that, she only just set foot on the island today. But on arrival, Bing Bing realized this place was absolutely massive. Plus, she had no clue where I went. Trying to track me down here was honestly harder than reaching the sky. But the word surrender simply did not exist in Bing Bing's dictionary. So she decided to question the locals while following any trace that might lead her straight to me. With that in mind, she rushed toward the distant town. While tracking a bus climbing the mountain, she saw the vehicle screech to a sudden halt. Every single passenger rushed outside immediately, like a swarming hive of excited bees. They ran eagerly toward a nearby festival. Bing Bing didn't plan on getting off, but a friendly bystander dragged her along anyway. "What are you still doing sitting there? Hurry up and grab some wedding candy for good luck." Before she could even react, she was shoved right into the crowd. Showers of wedding candy rained down all over the ground. Now pay attention here, because this wedding was reaching its absolute peak. The groom was about to lift his bride's red veil under everyone's blessings to seal their love with a kiss. Amidst the applause, the groom slowly turned the bride to face him. Everyone pushed forward, desperate to get a better view. The surging crowd swept Bing Bing right to the front, giving her a crystal-clear look at the happy groom's face. The first thing that caught her eye was his sleek black wedding suit, tailored perfectly to highlight my tall frame. For some strange reason, that build looked incredibly familiar to her. Suddenly, the groom turned his head toward the onlookers. Revealed to everyone was a strikingly handsome face, with eyes that were deep and full of soul, a sharp, defined nose, and finally, the complete reveal of a face she could never forget in her lifetime. Seeing my face standing there felt like a deafening bolt of lightning had struck right next to her ear. Her mind went completely blank. It was me, the very man she had yearned for day and night. The one she had searched for in total desperation. Me, the same guy who once gave her all his unconditional love. The one who wept heartbroken over her empty coffin, begging to die by her side, leaving her plagued by guilt and pain for so many dark nights. And yet, here I stood. On the fateful day of my disappearance, she had nearly lost her mind entirely. She dropped to her knees countless times outside the gates of the powerful Fang family. They threw cold water in her face, slapped her, and kicked her out with contempt, yet she stood as firm as a giant mountain. She begged miserably, not for their forgiveness, but just so they would tell her where in the world I had gone. Even when she collapsed in the pouring rain with a raging fever, the gates of the Fang family never opened. But she refused to give up. After all, she didn't even care about trampling her own pride anymore. She tracked down her worst enemies at their homes, begging them to help locate me. And now, she finally had me right in front of her. But she never imagined her beloved Fang Yuan would be another woman's groom. Why did fate have to be so cruel to her? And that's where we discover that I had actually known her dark, painful secret for a very long time. Stick with me to see how this broken marriage takes a wild, unexpected turn. After loving her so deeply, why would I suddenly marry another woman? Had she finally pushed things too far, or was I doing this out of pure cold revenge? Bing Bing's mind was in total chaos. She couldn't hear or see anything around her while watching that woman get ready to kiss my lips. She couldn't hold back anymore. Desperate, Bing Bing tried to push and shove her way through the massive crowd. Running toward me with everything she had, she completely ignored the shocked and stunned stares of the wedding guests. But the very moment her scream escaped, the cheering of the crowd drowned her out completely. Panic consumed Ningbing, and right then, a single desperate thought screamed repeatedly inside her head. Don't let that woman kiss him. They can't get married. He belongs to her, no matter the cost. She was ready to pay any price to win me back. She wanted to tell me how much she missed me every single day I was gone. How much she craved me. She was dying to confess the entire truth right now. She wanted to say it was all over, that she was finally back, and we could live our lives together again. She would promise to protect me from now on, swearing she'd never let me suffer even a single drop of pain. But pay close attention here, because right as she tries to push through, 2 soldiers block her path out of nowhere. "Excuse me, you are not allowed to pass." One guard stopped her with an outstretched arm, polite but incredibly firm. Bing Bing completely ignored him, slapping his hand away while screaming in absolute desperation for them to get out of her way. I need to see Fang Yuan. I'm his wife. The two guards froze for a split second, exchanging a silent, puzzled look. Their faces showed pure skepticism. His wife? But their young mistress had just assured them that I was their new master. Besides, the boss's ex-wife died on a mission long ago, so making up a wild story like this was just ridiculous. She shouldn't use a dead woman to pull this off. Immediately, one of the soldiers turned to glare directly at Bing Bing. I'm sorry, but you cannot pass. This time, his voice carried a very clear, sharp warning. If you keep causing trouble, we'll have to escort you out. Ningbing's face fell completely when she heard those words. She had never been rejected like this before. In the past, she'd fly into a rage, but this wasn't her family's manner. With nobody backing her up, she had to endure this. Swallowing her pride, she clenched her fists and took a deep breath. I really do know, Fang Yuan. Please, just listen to me for 1 second. I only ask that you give him a message. Tell him I want to see him. I know exactly what you're thinking. Seeing this woman beg so desperately is honestly shocking. But both guards stood completely frozen, acting like a solid wall of ice, blocking her from the grand hall. Such a loud scene quickly drew the curious eyes of the wedding guests. Whispers and gossip immediately spread. Several guests even recognized Ningbing, remembering the scandal of the younger daughter posing as her sister. All to seduce her own brother-in-law, a drama that got the whole country talking. That massive scandal had filled the newspaper front pages and dominated every single national news channel. Even the locals on this island knew the story. Although I had only been here a short time, they knew exactly what kind of person I was. They couldn't believe someone so noble and kind-hearted had been treated with such cruelty by Ningbing. Rage ignited the honest locals, who didn't hesitate to express their absolute outrage on my behalf. How dare she look for Comrade Fang? Talk about terrible luck, running into someone so despicable on his wedding day. The more they talked, the angrier they got. Finally, one of them lost all control and attacked. A sudden rush of air shook Bing Bing, and before she could even react, a heavy fist landed squarely on her face. Back in her best days, dodging such a simple punch would have been absolute child's play for her. But now, exhausted from all the recent drama and her endless search to find me, she had zero energy left. Caught off guard, Ningbing crashed to the ground. Before she could react, the mob swarmed her, kicking and beating her mercilessly in a wild storm of attacks. Ningbing could literally hear her own bones cracking under the pressure. Only after they unleashed all their fury did they leave her alone, lying motionless on the dirty ground. Much later, she managed to raise her arm with immense difficulty, trying to wipe away the blood so she wouldn't ruin the wedding. Suddenly, several burly men stepped out and began dragging her away. They prepared to dump her outside, giving a harsh warning never to dare bother anyone ever again. Stay away from Comrade Fang, or we will beat you half to death. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing how this karma plays out. All right, you and I are diving into a wild storm tonight. Let's see what happens as lightning splits the sky. The thunder was so incredibly loud, it literally shook the windows. Subaiho held me tight, covering my ears with her warm hands until I drifted back to sleep. Only then did she gently pull them away. She turned around, quietly slipped out of bed, threw on a coat, and stepped out of the room. Opening the front door with an umbrella, she spotted a figure standing in the downpour. She instantly frowned with deep suspicion. A flash of shock crossed her face. She never expected Ba Ningbing to still be out there waiting at this hour. Right after the wedding ended, 2 of her father's guards had pulled her aside in secret. They warned her that a woman claiming to be my wife was trying to break in. Subaiho knew it was Ba Ningbing instantly. Based on what I had shared with her, If Ba Ningbing ever decided to find us, it should have taken months. Her showing up now meant something major went wrong in the Ba family, forcing her to act early. At first, Subaiho did not care. I would never go back to her anyway. If she had any pride, she would have quietly left our lives forever. But nobody expected Bingbing to stand outside our front gate for hours in this brutal, freezing storm. Subaiho just found out she was pregnant. Our life was starting, and she refused to let this drama stress me out. With that in mind, she marched right out to confront the woman standing under the pouring rain. Outside the Su family mansion, Bingbing stood completely frozen, drenched to the bone. Water dripped from her hair, framing her pale face as a piercing chill seeped deep into her shivering body. Even though she was shaking uncontrollably from the cold, Bingbing did not seem to care one bit. Her gaze remained locked onto those closed iron gates. She had been waiting there for a whole day. From the moment the wedding ended until now, she waited outside. She only had one burning question for me. Why did I leave her without a single word? Why did I suddenly marry another woman out of nowhere? She had promised to return to me right after the baby was born, so we could rebuild our lives together. Why could I not just be patient and wait a little longer for her? As her mind spirals into absolute chaos, the gate finally opens. Watch closely as a dark silhouette steps out into the rain. Suddenly, her lifeless eyes lit up. She could not even wait for them to reach her and ran straight forward. She screamed out Fang Yuan, but as the large umbrella lifted, she saw the face of a total stranger. Suddenly, another flash of lightning tore through the dark sky, briefly illuminating the pitch-black night. This time, Bingbing saw her clearly. So you are the woman who stole my Fang Yuan from me. And here is where you and I finally discover how Bingbing actually knows this mysterious woman. Long ago, after her sacrifice was announced, several matchmakers had come to my house to propose a marriage. Among them, there was one who stubbornly visited our home 7 different times. No matter how often she was kicked out, she kept returning. That was how Bingbing learned Subaiho's identity. But that's not all. In fact, even before that matchmaker arrived, their paths had already crossed briefly. She had visited the Su family estate to see the old master. That woman rushed down the stairs, giving only a slight nod. After that brief greeting, she hurried away. But in that split second, Bingbing felt something distinct from Subaiho. Unprovoked hostility aimed directly at her. She did not understand it then, but now it made perfect sense. It turned out Subaiho had eyes on my husband since that day. "Do you want to die?" she roared. Blinding rage exploded in Bingbing's chest as she threw a wild punch, ready to tear Subaiho apart. Subaiho lay, lipping to the side to easily dodge the attack. She retaliated with a sharp strike to the face, completely unlike the sweet girl she is around me. Right now, she was cold and ruthless, her dark eyes promising pure destruction if pushed any further. If Ba Ningbing wanted to act like a wild animal, Subaiho saw absolutely no reason to play nice. The umbrella fell into the mud as lightning flashed. They fought like 2 absolute banshees in the rain, trading punches and kicks, but Subaiho was completely dominating the clash. And just like that, Bingbing is pinned to the gates. Trust me, our story is only going to get crazier. All right. Prepare yourselves for a heartbreaking ride. Lightning flashes over her pale, beaten face as torrential rain washes away the blood, staining the cold ground. She struggles to stand, pulling together every ounce of her strength, but agonizing pain instantly rips through every single nerve in her body. Only then does Subaiho step back. Pulling a handkerchief from her pocket, she wipes off the blood with a terrifyingly calm expression. Finally, she picks up her black umbrella from the wet ground, wipes off the mud, and slowly opens it up. "By Ningbing, never come back. I am pregnant with his child. If anything happens to my baby, Fang Yuan will never forgive you." If you keep looking for him, I will have no choice but to call the B family and ask how they raised their daughter." Hearing this, Ningbing snaps her head up, her eyes completely blank. "What did you just say? Who is pregnant? Whose child is that?" Su Baihao scoffs in pure contempt. "It is obviously Fang Yuan's." Those words feel like an invisible hand tearing open her chest. An icy wind sweeps over her, freezing her whole body. She can no longer see or hear anything at all. Even the frantic beating of her heart seems to stop completely. She stands completely frozen, but a violent storm of emotions rages deep inside her. Clearly, before coming to this island and having everything exposed, she thought that by returning to me, she would bear many children. That way, I would finally stop hating Sanjinian. But now, her eyes are locked onto Subaihu, who stands triumphantly right in front of her. She had just heard, word for word, that this woman was pregnant, and the father was Fang Yuan. Now pay close attention, because Ningbing's heart shatters into a million pieces at this exact second. Her breathing turns shallow and suffocating. Her chest heaves heavily. Every single breath she takes brings an unbearable, agonizing wave of pain. From the moment I vanished without a trace until now, she saw with her own eyes that I had married and had a child with someone else. All of this proved to her that I truly did not need her in my life anymore. The lies she built up completely crumble in an instant. Suddenly, she remembers our wedding night. That very night, I warned her with absolute seriousness that if she ever betrayed me, I would leave her forever without hesitation. Back then, she was far too confident in my love, so she treated my warning like a joke and laughed it off. That is why she fooled herself repeatedly, believing her situation with Sanjinian was just due to some hidden struggle. That she did it for her older sister, so her brother-in-law could live and the B family would have an heir. That was her only reason. She temporarily sacrificed our little family for her relatives. She hoped that when it ended, she could tell me the whole truth. Since I was a reasonable man, she assumed I would understand. But now, harsh reality proved she was dead wrong. An unforgivable mistake. A bitter, self-deprecating laugh escapes from Ningbing's lips. But the pouring rain drowns it out instantly. In front of her, Su Baiho refuses to waste more time with someone like her. She turns around decisively and walks inside. The cold iron gate slams shut right in front of Bai Ningbing. She collapses completely onto the muddy ground. Her tears instantly mix with the falling rain. I know it hurts us to see her like this. Her shoulders shake, releasing years of bottled-up grief, sobbing in pure despair. Inside the Su residence, where Feng Yuan rests in spring-like warmth, completely oblivious to the freezing storm outside, Su Baihu finishes changing her clothes. Opening the bedroom door, she sees her husband sitting up in bed, lazily rubbing his eyes as he wakes up. In a sleepy voice, he asks where she went. Her steps halt as she remembers the confrontation, her gaze darkening. Then she pretends nothing is wrong and walks over. She hugs me tenderly and gives me a soft kiss. I did not go far, just down to the dock to buy you some food. Hearing that, I open my eyes in surprise. I look outside at the terrible downpour. What if you catch a cold? Do not worry, my health is excellent, she replies. Besides, our baby had a craving. As a mother, how could I refuse? Saying this, she gently caresses her belly. Her eyes overflow with tenderness. Hearing her mention our child, I also reach out, looking at her belly with love. I never imagined I would become a father. In the past, after hearing about Ningbing's supposed death, my health completely collapsed. That, combined with everything else that happened later, reached a point where the doctor warned me that, given my severe physical state, having children would be almost impossible. Yet, this one-in-a-million miracle somehow found us. I deeply treasure this baby we worked so hard to conceive. Because of that, I barely care about what happens outside anymore. Whatever Subaiho says is fine. I won't ask questions, but trust me, this is only just beginning. Because Subaiho understood my character so well, she hid the fact that Ningbing had come to the island looking for me. Pay close attention here. She kept it all a secret just to protect her husband from suffering because of that woman. After dinner, Subai stayed right by my side until I fell into a deep sleep. Only then did she head downstairs. Since she was pregnant, the Su and Fang families had hired servants to tend to her. Seeing her come down, the maid waiting by the window rushed over immediately. "Good evening, ma'am." Swaihu gave a soft nod and asked if she was still outside. The maid replied that she had been standing there all night. Swaihu smiled coldly. "There is absolutely no reason for us to worry about her anymore. Whatever happens to her is none of our business." She then told the maid that she had been feeling quite nauseous lately. "Make something light and non-greasy. Use the salted pork and bamboo shoots that the Fang family sent over the other day. Turn them into a soup." "Yes, ma'am." Once the maid left, Subuaihao walked over to the desk phone. She dialed a number. "Hello, please connect me to the Bai family residence. Thank you." Even if Swaihu ignored Ba Ningbing, I could not hide forever. Sooner or later, I would have to go out for work. So, to stop her from causing trouble, she made a call we all anticipated. She demanded the Bai family take Bingbing away. Give her a month at most, or she would force her to leave. As she uttered those cold words, a flash of fierce determination shone in Subai's eyes. On another stormy, rainy night, Bingbing lost all track of time while standing outside the Su family mansion. Her body was pushed past its absolute limit, yet she still could not catch a glimpse of me. The rain poured down harder. One by one, the lights inside the Su mansion began to go out. As the final light faded, hope died in her eyes. She knew today would be another pointless day of waiting. In that moment, her heart felt utterly empty, surrounded only by a deep despair and a biting, freezing cold. Subai's words echoed in her head. Yet, she flatly refused to give up, just like that. We used to love each other madly. I even wanted to end my life when she supposedly died, but now I did not care. A bitter smile touched her lips as she looked up at the dark, gloomy night sky. Rain lashed against her face like the heavens mocking her. Unable to take any more, her vision went completely blurry. Her body collapsed onto the wet ground. The heavy downpour kept falling mercilessly, threatening to drown her spirit completely. Lost in the freezing cold of her feverish delirium, she heard a worried voice calling her name, Ningbing. Soon, she lay unconscious on a hospital bed with high fever. She began to dream. In her mind, my face appeared the man she had not seen for so long. I held her in my arms, like before, whispering her name. But as she tried to kiss me, my face changed completely, and I pushed her away to embrace another woman. No matter how desperately she begged, I did not care to look at her for even a second. "Ba Ningbing, you betrayed me first, so I do not need you." I walked away without looking back. "Do not go." She woke up screaming, "Looking around you, and I can both feel how heartbreaking this scene is." Her hand brushed against something soft, and in her delirium, she smiled, believing it was me. She hugged the person, kissing and begging them, "Do not leave me, please stay with me, Sanjinian." After traveling for days, he never imagined that his reunion with Ba Ningbing would end up being this painful. It took Sajinian everything to escape his mother's hell. If forced back into those dark days, he would rather die. He truly meant it and planned to do it. Every bit of his dignity was completely gone. His mother rejected him, and Ba Ningbing did not care either. What was the point of living in this world? But just when Sanjinian was about to end it all, Mother Bai suddenly burst into the room. She stopped him with all her might, saying the Bai family owed him too much to ever push him again. So, Mother Bai decided on her own to marry him off to Ba Ningbing. But Bingbing fiercely opposed this. She fled to the island to find me and beg for my return instead. Mother Bai did not back down either. She bought Song Jinny a boat ticket straight to the island. With the ticket ready, she sent him away, and you and I will have to wait to see what happens next. Let's dive in and see how they drag the marriage registrars straight to the house for an instant wedding. In the past, Song Jinian would never have accepted this, but he and Ba Ningbing had lived as spouses for almost 2 years. His body knew her too well, and his heart was starting to feel something real. Besides, with his reputation already ruined, it was better to just marry and have children with her right away. That would secure their future. For that exact reason, Song Jinian finally showed up. He imagined 1,000 reactions from Bingbing upon seeing him, but never expected that, the instant they met, she would throw herself at him with such wild passion. She held him tight, kissing him madly, begging him not to abandon her. Stunned by her intense fervor, Song Jinian believed they were returning to the passionate days of their last 2 years. Just thinking about it made him blush. He looked into her eyes and wrapped his arms around her, ready to return her deep kiss. But in the very next second, Ba Ningbing suddenly whispered another man's name. "Feng Yuan, do not leave, I beg you." Hearing that name felt like a bucket of ice-cold water poured over Song Jinian. Now watch this, his whole body freezes up as this brutal realization hits him with pure humiliation. He already felt completely hers. Why on earth was she still calling out another man's name? The more he thought about it, the more his anger boiled. He could not contain his rage. Summoning tremendous strength, he shoved Ba Ningbing away. "Look at me, realize who I actually am." Pushed away roughly, she barely reacted, reaching again for Song Jinian's hand, begging him not to be angry. "Please, I can explain everything," Bingbing cried out, completely lost in absolute despair. In that moment, she seemed to snap out of it. She shook her head and finally saw clearly who held her. In a second, the warmth on her face vanished like the tide, leaving a terrifying chill. "Why is it you?" Hearing that icy, distant tone, Song Jinian felt a sharp pain pierce his chest and clenched his fists. So, he decided to reveal Mother Ba's plans. Hearing they wanted to marry her off to Song Jinian, Bingbing's face went completely dark. There was not even the slightest hint of warmth left in her gaze. Her voice sounded completely hollow. "Do you really want to marry me?" Song Jinian stared at that face, identical to his late wife's. As if hypnotized, he simply nodded. Years ago, he agreed to marry Ba Ningbing's sister just because he fell for that face, even if Bingbing did not love him. Having that beauty by his side and raising kids who looked like her was enough to feel like he was not losing. I know what you're thinking, but he would never admit it directly. I already told you, with my reputation, nobody wants me. If I do not marry you, who else am I supposed to marry? Hearing the response she had already anticipated, Ba Ningbing felt utterly exhausted. If she had known that playing his late sister to comfort him and raise her child would bring this chaos, she never would have done it. Under no circumstances would she have taken that terrible path. She leaned back against the headboard, rubbing her temples with closed eyes, and spoke with deep resignation. "You know well that I do not love you and will never marry you. All my affection was just for my sister's memory. Besides, I came to this island to win back Feng Yuan and become his rightful wife again." Ever since he entered her life, nobody else has ever existed in Ba Ningbing's eyes. Hearing that, Song Jinian felt a wave of irony, since he had investigated the whole situation upon arriving on the island. Now, Feng Yuan is married to Su, who is also pregnant. Their love is so deep they are like a body and its shadow. Nobody will ever separate them. Saying he did not feel jealous at that moment would be a flat-out lie. But Song Jinyan had no energy left to envy him. His only priority was clinging to Ba Ningbing with all his might. So he decided to shatter her illusions. Stop daydreaming, you are never going to get him back. And if we are talking about marriage, you and I have spent more time together than you did as his wife. Is that not true? When Ba Ningbing and I were newlyweds, she had to leave for a long mission. Shortly after, that incident occurred. Upon returning, she was always by his side taking care of him. They even raised a child together. Ba Ningbing, rest assured that no man would ever take you back except for me. Unsure which words struck her most sensitive nerve, Ba Ningbing completely lost her composure and exploded in rage. She hurls an object in pure rage, screaming at him to get out, leaving us to wonder what happens next now that Fang Yuan is totally clueless. Come along with me as we watch how Fang Yuan, cared for by Subai Hao, finally recovers her health. After being cooped up inside for over a month, I can finally walk outside and breathe some fresh air. So, on a total whim, I begged Subai Hao to visit the new city mall together to pick out baby clothes and milk for our future little one. Since the mall wasn't too far, we decided to skip driving and walked peacefully down the mountain trail instead. Along the way, I felt just like a little bird newly freed from its cage, looking around with wide-eyed curiosity. Subai Hao didn't try to stop me, silently following close behind to make sure I was safe. Once there, we went straight to the baby boutique on the second floor. Not knowing our little angel's gender yet, we bought two of absolutely everything just to be safe. But when we brought our items to the register, the cashier told us someone had already paid for our entire purchase. Subai Hao and I stared at each other, completely baffled by what was happening. We hadn't helped anyone lately, and who would spend a fortune on us like that? I honestly thought it was a prank. But once she showed us the printed receipt, we were stunned to see it was completely real. At first, we assumed it was just a coincidence, maybe a friend who happened to spot us. And since they couldn't stop to say hello, they left this sweet gesture, hoping we would run into each other later. So we could thank them in person, but the weirdest part was, this kept happening in every single store we visited. Now, pay attention here as we finish shopping. This exact thing kept happening, making me feel incredibly uneasy. I looked at Subai Hao, terrified. Dark thoughts raced through my mind, fearing someone was plotting something sinister against us. Unlike me, Subai Hao remained perfectly calm, slowly piecing together every clue in her mind. She seemed to know exactly who was behind this, especially after spotting a familiar silhouette that confirmed all her suspicions. With that in mind, she gently comforted me and led me to a new restaurant to grab some lunch. While we waited for the food, she made up a quick excuse about some business and told me to start eating without her. Down a quiet alleyway, Subai Hao delivered a devastating kick that knocked Bai Ningbing down, her expression freezing cold. She was absolutely furious when she realized Bai Ningbing had snuck out of the hospital all on her own. After taking that single brutal hit, she didn't even have the strength left to stand back up. Yet even in this pathetic state, her face showed pure, stubborn defiance. What if it is me? I told you before, Fang Yuan is my husband, and a thief like you will never steal him away. It was that exact obsession to win me back that drove Bai Ningbing to sneak away from her hospital bed. She searched everywhere until she finally located me, the person she desperately craved, only to see Subai Hao standing right beside me. Catching sight of my pregnant belly felt like a sharp blade piercing right through Bai Ningbing's heart. Bitter resentment choked her, but Bai Ningbing swallowed the intense pain with sheer stubbornness. After all, she was the one who chose to have a child with someone else first. If she could accept the baby I was carrying from someone else, she would raise it as her own on one condition: I must return to her. So, to win me over, she hatched this petty scheme from the shadows. which was to separate Subaihao from me. But you and I both know Subaihao was way too fast and confronted her first. I never imagined Bai Ningbing could be so shameless. Wasting no more time talking to that woman, she raised her fist to strike, but suddenly, a terrifying explosion echoed in the distance. Subaihao's fist froze mid-air from sheer shock, and she spun her head around in absolute terror. Right before her eyes, the restaurant where I was eating was engulfed in roaring flames and thick, black smoke. Fang Yuan. A heartbreaking scream tore from her throat as she ran desperately toward the burning building. She didn't notice that behind her, Bai Ningbing's face had also turned completely pale. Struggling to stand, she ran in that direction too, beneath a sky painted in fiery red. Among the weeping crowd, heart-wrenching screams of pure panic echoed everywhere. The chaos brought immense pain to Subaihao, as a heavy wave of guilt began devouring her soul. She slapped her own face in utter desperation. If only she had known, she never would have left me there alone. She couldn't let anything happen to me, and trust me, that terrifying thought drove her completely mad. You and I are about to see absolute madness. She was leaping into the flames when a massive explosion blasted debris everywhere. Sharp debris flew everywhere like razor blades. Officer, please calm down. Going in there right now is extremely dangerous. Going inside is suicide. We already called the police, and rescue teams should be here any minute. Everyone around noticed that Subaiho did not care about her life anymore, as she kept trying to throw herself into the flames. Terrified, they rushed to hold her back. Let me go. My husband is still inside and his health is extremely fragile. Her eyes red with sheer terror, Subaiho ignored everything, desperately trying to break free from their grip. In that moment, her mind went completely blank, leaving her with only one single thought. I was still trapped inside, and she could not let anything happen to me. Suddenly, she unleashed an unbelievable superhuman strength. Breaking free from everyone, she sprinted forward, completely determined to dive straight into that wild sea of fire. Right at that exact second, another devastating explosion erupted. The brutal shockwave knocked everyone to the ground, turning the entire scene into absolute chaotic madness. But pay close attention here, because in the middle of all that chaos, someone else charged into the fire without hesitating. Bing Bing was right behind her. Once she heard I was still trapped inside the blazing fire, her own life did not matter anymore. Without hesitating for a single second, she dove headfirst into that massive sea of flames. Despite having some rescue experience, the fire raging inside the restaurant was just too violent. Through the thick black smoke, crying people fled while covering their noses as muffled coughs echoed continuously. Soot-covered figures with sparks on their clothes ran desperately to save themselves, screaming for help. As for Ba Ningbing, she wore absolutely no protective gear. The fire quickly surrounded her while burning embers fell beneath her feet, scorching everything in sight. Raging flames chased her relentlessly, while a wave of scorching air struck her face with brutal force. It was like being trapped in a terrifying, never-ending hell. Suffocating smoke choked her throat, making her cough desperately. Breathing had become almost impossible. Her eyes burned and tears streamed down endlessly as her vision began to blur completely. I know what you are thinking. And yes, after searching endlessly, she finally spotted a familiar silhouette lying on the floor. Her heart, which had briefly felt a glimmer of hope, instantly clenched in pure terror. Nothing else mattered to Bingbing anymore as she rushed straight toward that spot. Suddenly, a piece of the ceiling collapsed right toward that figure. Fang Yuan, she screamed in despair, throwing her own body over him as a shield. A second later, the heavy piece of the ceiling slammed directly into her back. Instantly, everything went dark for Bingbing, and she completely lost consciousness. At the hospital, Song Jinian stared at the bandaged woman in the bed, his gaze filled with tangled emotions. He knew very well that Bingbing loved me deeply, but he never imagined an obsession of this scale. A love so blind it drove her to escape her own hospital bed, ignoring the agonizing pain of her unhealed wounds. A love willing to risk her entire life by walking through a blazing hell just to try and save me. Only to discover that the man she rescued simply had a back that looked like mine. The more Song Jinian thought about it, the tighter he clenched his fists, digging his nails into his palms with rage. Even though his skin tore and drops of blood dripped down, he did not even feel the physical pain. He just stood there, staring intently at Bingbing. Suddenly, he recalled the letter from the Bai family matriarch, who worried he would not be able to bring Bingbing back on his own. Because of that, the Bai family would soon send someone to assist him. But the matriarch wanted him and Bingbing to conceive a child before they arrived to secure their marriage. That way, his chances of a formal marriage would rise. Thinking of this, Song Jinian reached into his pocket. Inside was the exact medication that the Bai family mother had sent to him. Nobody knew better than Song Jinian exactly when and where he would have to use that drug. "Ba Ningbing, you were the one who betrayed me first and hurt me," he justified. "We leave her in a coma for a week. Trust me, you and I cannot miss what comes next. Let's dive in together, because the first thing she did upon waking up was not thank Sanjinian for looking after her. Instead, she desperately asked how I was doing. When she realized the person she risked her life to save wasn't me, and that I had already escaped, she froze completely. But then she sighed in relief, sinking back into bed as if a massive weight had just been lifted off her shoulders. A smile of pure relief even crossed her lips, a silent mockery that stung Sanjinian like thorns, fueling his growing resentment. That reaction only deepened his dark desire to press forward with his schemes. The moment she learned I was in that very same hospital, Ning Bing completely ignored all of her painful injuries. She dragged herself out of bed, determined to find me, and this time, Sanjinian did absolutely nothing to stop her. He just stood there, watching her walk away in silence, while in his mind, the horrific scene of that day's fire replayed on loop, remembering how Bingbing threw herself into the flames just to save me, a memory that meant utter agony and the deepest humiliation of Sanjinian's entire life. By the time he arrived at the blazing scene, completely out of breath, she had already plunged into danger long ago, leaving him desperate and searching everywhere for help. Suddenly, around a nearby corner, he saw that I, the one supposedly trapped in the flames, was perfectly safe in Subaihao's arms. We were kissing with endless relief. Now pay close attention here, because in that exact moment, deep hatred and immense pain were born in his heart. If Bingbing knew the man she almost died for was already safe in the tender embrace of another woman, she would have shattered into pieces right then and there. Just as he prepared to approach them, Subaihao spotted him first. After getting me safely into the car, she turned, walked over, and immediately proposed an alliance. Their shared goal was to make Bingbing forget me, and Sanjinian accepted without a single doubt. The first phase of the plan was for Ba Ningbing to overhear something absolutely horrible, cold, ruthless words directly from my mouth, declaring that I would never return to her. Sure enough, as Bingbing rolled her wheelchair up to my door to knock, she heard Subaihao's voice mentioning the name Fang Yuan. "There is something I really want to tell you about Bingbing." Hearing those words, her breath caught in her throat and her hand froze midair. I know what you're thinking. She's terrified to show her face, wondering how I would react to seeing her. Would it be pure contempt? Or something worse? Yet, my voice from inside the room sounded strangely calm. Why bring her up out of nowhere? Those simple words were enough to make her heart tremble with agony. Deep pain surged through her body. Now, I could not even tolerate hearing her name. The conversation inside the room continued. My tone was utterly cold and detached, as if I were speaking about a total stranger. I told you this the very day I agreed to marry you. That person has nothing to do with me anymore. Honestly, to me, Ning Bing died on that mission years ago. Everything that happened afterward was just my punishment for being so blind. Now, my eyes are wide open. I will never care about her again, and I only want peace with you, so you do not hold a grudge. Why would I hold a grudge against someone who is already dead to me? Those few icy words caused Ning Bing's already fragile heart to finally shatter into pieces. It fell to the floor and broke into 100,000 irreparable shards. She closed her eyes, exhausted and pale, gripping the armrests of her wheelchair tightly. Her extreme force made her knuckles turn white in the middle of that dark room. The pungent scent of alcohol filled the space as Ning Bing lay collapsed on the cold floor. Her gaze was vacant from drinking, swaying unsteadily as she clumsily clutched a glass. Surrounded by empty bottles, she kept drinking non-stop while helplessly whispering my name. Her eyes showed bitter regret as her tears slowly mingled with the taste of the wine. That burning bitterness felt like thousands of needles tearing her apart from the inside. And that's where we leave her, watching as pain consumes her completely. Tell me, do you think she deserved this ending? Join me in watching this absolute disaster. Bing Bing's body collapses onto the floor, smashing wine bottles as she goes. Wine splatters everywhere, blurring her vision. In her drunken delirium, she thinks she sees my silhouette appearing right before her. She imagines me gently pushing the door open, stepping inside, and walking softly toward her, just like on our wedding day. She thinks I'm calling her name so tenderly, reaching out to wrap her in a tight, warm embrace. Believing she's lost in a beautiful dream, she decides to surrender to her feelings one last time. She pulls me close to her chest, pressing a passionate kiss to my lips, but feels only endless bitterness in her mouth. With her mind completely blurred by too much alcohol, Bing Bing hallucinates that I'm crying from pure, raw pain. Desperate, she kisses the corners of my eyes to wipe away those sad tears, whispering softly for me to stop crying. In the cold night, raindrops beat against the porch, while a gentle breeze blows softly through the darkness. The storm's roar builds fast. Waking up from her deep slumber, Ningbing is hit with an unbearable, splitting headache. She struggles hard to sit up, barely managing to open her eyes, only to freeze in horror, finding herself in the arms of someone terribly familiar. Her bare shoulders are covered in dark red marks. Look closely here, it only takes one glance to know something awful happened. Her eyes widen in pure, absolute terror. She completely loses her composure the exact moment the man holding her begins to raise his head, agonizingly slow. He flashes her a knowing, cryptic smirk. This morning, which should have been peaceful for Ningbing, has turned into complete chaos. Never in her worst nightmares did she imagine falling into the trap of this despicable scumbag, Song Jinian. As a burning rage consumes her, a deep, painful sadness begins to take over her entire heart. Before this, she only tolerated his presence to fulfill her late sister's dying wish, which was to bear Song Jinian an heir. But now, right when she was trying her hardest to win me back, sleeping with him destroys any remaining chance we ever had. I am someone who values purity above all else. How could I ever accept a woman tainted by another man? She can no longer keep up her usual calm facade. She lunges, grabbing his throat and screaming, "Do you want to die?" But the tighter she squeezes, the more his crazed laughter mocks her, filling Ningbing with an unbearable sense of disgust. She slams him hard onto the floor. Only then does his laughter stop as he coughs, glaring up with ice-cold eyes. Let's pause and watch him sneer right to her face. "Wake up, Bing Bing. Stop dreaming." Since you chose to fake your death and pose as your sister just to sleep with me, you and him are over." Jinian's eyes overflow with intense resentment, deep madness, and absolute cruelty. "If you don't agree to come back to me and register our marriage right now, then I'll leak all our intimate photos so everyone, especially Fang Yuan, can see exactly how you clung to me." "Stop it! You're absolutely insane!" Losing all control, she swings her hand and slaps him right across the face. Regret eats her alive. If she had known she would end up in such a humiliating spot, she never would have softened her heart to help this vile bastard. "Pei Ningbing, I, Song Jinian, am warning you for the absolute last time. If we don't register this marriage within 3 days, my people will deliver those photos straight to him. By then, he'll be dragged down into your mess, facing public humiliation right alongside his own son." A ruthless look flashes in Song Jinian's eyes, "So you'd better just accept your fate. Just like him, you'll bow your head and submit." Bing Bing glares at him with endless, burning resentment. She stands completely still, wrapped in silence as she frantically searches for any way out of this disaster. But deep down, she bitterly realizes she's trapped in a dark dead end with absolutely no return. Ever since she overheard my harsh words outside that hospital room, the last trace of our love completely vanished. Now, if Jinian carries out his threat, I will sever every single tie with her for the rest of my life. I've already endured way too much pain and disappointment because of her. This really has to end here. Lost in her thoughts, she misses Jinian's murderous glare as he whispers a truly twisted, dark reminder. "Don't forget where your beloved parents are." Ningbing's once proud shoulders drop in utter defeat, while Jinian lets out a smug, triumphant smirk. "And trust me, you and I both know what this means." She broke and accepted his sick blackmail. 3 days later, let's dive back in, as the Bai family arrives at the island to pick up Bai Ningbing and Song Jinian, holding hands like lovesick newlyweds. As they held up that bright red marriage certificate, the Bai family members breathed a collective sigh of relief, feeling a massive weight finally lift off their shoulders. The ship's horn blared, announcing their departure as dark smoke billowed from the stack. Bai Ningbing stared silently at the sea, tracing the wedding band in her hand with deep melancholy. Her eyes held nothing but pure bitterness, remembering our wedding when she saved 6 months of her salary just to buy that custom-made ring. At that very moment, she slipped the ring onto my finger. The cold and ruthless Bai Ningbing wept like a little child. Back then, she whispered sweet promises in my ear, swearing we would spend 100 years together. Yet, in the end, she was the one who shattered every single promise. Even the most basic trust of our marriage was ruthlessly crushed by her actions. Now watch this. She pays the ultimate price for her betrayal by tossing her wedding ring straight into the deep, dark ocean. She wanted to bury that ruined marriage forever, letting it sink to the absolute depths of the freezing sea. Goodbye, Fang Yuan. I hope our paths never cross again. Hearing that Bai Ningbing and Song Jinian had married and left, Su Baizhu finally smiled, relieved after days of endless anxiety. She had pushed her rival away for good. Now, no one would steal her beloved husband. With that thought, she leaned in, showering my face with kisses while I was still fast asleep. That woke me right up, so I pulled her close, gently asking what was going on. Ever since she got pregnant, Su Baiju's mood had been totally unpredictable, and she just giggled at my playful complaints. "It is nothing, honey. Those annoying flies have finally gone far, far away." I looked at her with playful defeat, hugged her tight, and closed my eyes to go back to sleep. But a warm smile played on my lips. I had long suspected she was hiding something that clearly involved Bai Ningbing. Even on our wedding day, I caught a glimpse of Bai Ningbing running desperately toward me. But deep down, I had already banished her completely from my life. So I did not care what she did. not even when Subaiju took advantage of my sleep to settle things with her. And trust me, I was already one step ahead of her. I knew Bai Ningbing left a regretful letter and that my wife ripped it into pieces without a shred of remorse. Honestly, it did not bother me at all, because I deeply loved the woman standing right by my side. I knew everything Subaiju did was to protect us and our future baby, because in my heart, Bai Ningbing was a stranger. So, whether she lives or dies is completely irrelevant to my life now. My only wish now is to cherish my wife as we build our home and raise our beautiful daughter together. This is more than enough for my happiness. I would not ask destiny for anything else. 7 months later, Subaiju and I finally welcomed our very first baby girl. Since this little life was an absolute miracle, we named her Tenny, symbolizing the sincere love sent to us by heaven. She was showered with endless love from day one, and when her first-month celebration arrived, our parents traveled from far away to the island to share this immense joy with us. Among the gifts was a highly confidential letter. My mother looked at her daughter-in-law and sighed deeply. She admitted she had no plans to deliver it, but Bai Ningbing's mother had begged her through tears. You know Fang Yuan's temper. I do not want him to worry or feel sad anymore. Read this note quickly and burn it. Please, make sure Fang Yuan never finds out. After it was revealed that Bai Ningbing faked her death to deceive everyone, our family severed all ties, ending our connection with the Bai family for good, since our lives have now completely changed. Subaiju nodded in understanding, took the paper, and retreated to a quiet corner to read it. She assumed it was just another dramatic letter from Bai Ningbing to me, but was shocked to find heartfelt apologies detailing how she suffered constant, painful nightmares since her return. And that's where we leave her, trapped in a waking nightmare of the day her sister died. Let's dive in and see how she tried to change her fate in her dreams, but it was useless under the torment of her nightmares. Slowly, her mind completely shattered into total psychological instability. She began to lose her mind, screaming my name every single time she looked at Song Jinian. At first, Song Jinian tried to endure the madness solely for the sake of their young child. He kept telling himself to hold on for family. But his breaking point came when Ba Ningbing forced their son to call my portrait father. Now watch closely. This absolute humiliation drove him insane, sparking a brutal fight between them. Both ended up gravely injured. Bingbing broke her legs, leaving her permanently paralyzed from the waist down. And as for Song Jinian, his eyes would never see the light of day again. He also spiraled into severe psychosis, losing all sanity. Their poor child was left completely mute from terror. Later, they discovered the young girl suffered from a severe congenital heart condition, forcing her to rely entirely on heavy medication from a tender age. Bingbing did not write this letter to beg for my pity, but to offer a sincere, long overdue apology. We see it now. She confessed she was wrong, and deeply hurt me. She did not even dare to dream of ever obtaining my forgiveness. She only hoped I would remain safe and happy, wishing every illness in the world fell on her instead. Dubayu scowled with pure contempt. Without a single second thought, she tossed the letter straight into the blazing fire nearby. In the distance, I held our daughter, smiling warmly. Dubayu flashed a bright, loving grin and walked quickly over to us. She wrapped her arms tightly around us, whispering sweet words directly into my ear. Fang Yuan, I am so incredibly blessed to have you both in my life. I smiled warmly, gently squeezing her hands, replying that I felt exactly the same. I am so glad fate brought me to you. What a beautiful ending, right?